Chapter 4560. Who was hubby teasing? Who would end up like this after being hit by a speed cultivation curse? What a weirdo. This guy flew around the island as if he was patrolling. After tossing and turning around for less than an hour, he found a piece of land with good feng shui that faced the sea and backed by a coconut grove. Arbor breathed a sigh of relief and inwardly mused. Hubby has finally calmed down. After this, as long as he entered a cultivation state peacefully and steadily, she would have nothing to do. Hubby, I'm telling you, you have to hurry and untie me, or else I'll get angry. Arbor's face was taut as this guy led her to a tall coconut tree with a spirit binding rope. The tree was covered with oval-shaped fruits, each the size of a ball, and they weighed heavily on the branches. There were actually countless islands like this one on Fish Orchid Planet. Arbor didn't know which island her hubby had brought her to stay on for a while. She used her divine conscience to call Chio, but Chio, that swindler, was nowhere to be found and didn't respond for a long time. Hubby, Arbor returned to her senses and looked at his handsome face that was inches away in astonishment. You, why are you sticking so close? The little stoic raised her head, feeling inexplicably a bit scared. Hubby expressionlessly stared at her for a long time, his gaze a bit fixed. The more he looked, the scarier it became. The little stoic moved her lips guiltily and weakly said, Hubby, I didn't do it on purpose. I also didn't know that swindler Duan you would suddenly snatch my speed cultivation curse. The spirit binding rope fell from her wrists. Arbor exhaled lightly and did her best to squeeze out a smile on her stoic face. How about you? Just cultivate here peacefully. I'll come pick you up in 15 days, okay? Emo Yin didn't utter a word, but suddenly used the spirit binding rope to coil around her several times. She was pressed against the coconut tree and tied up securely. Arbor, husband, what are you doing? Arbor was dumbfounded. He watched as Emo Yin pressed him against the tree trunk and used the spirit binding rope to wrap around her again and again. Arbor wanted to cry. Why are you trying to reason with a delirious person? The person in front of him was obviously unreasonable. Fuck, what is this person doing? Arbor's watery eyes widened as he watched this scammer unbuckle her belt. She cried out, Brother, don't move. This place is not suitable. Brother, I was wrong, okay? I shouldn't have let my imagination run wild and tricked you with the quick cultivation talisman, and tricked myself in the end. I shouldn't have looked on helplessly as Duan Yu, that swindler, tricked myself. Stop. I won't go, okay? Arbor moved his head and said repeatedly, You can cultivate at ease. I'll stay here to accompany you. Isn't that fine? This fella had a flash of inspiration and finally realized where the problem was. Ever since husband was afflicted with the quick cultivation talisman, he seemed to be even more clingy than usual. Whether it was tying her up or unbuckling her belt, there seemed to be only one reason. It was to make her obediently stay here, Jojo's lotus. The little stoic called out tentatively. I'll stay here to accompany you, okay? Emo Yin's fingers finally came down from her belt. She expressionlessly looked at her before turning to sit down next to her. Chapter 4561. Sir Jojo wanted to cry. This rapid cultivation talisman was really chapter 563. Why was everyone affected by suddenly stretched out her hand to call out? Why was Emo Yin very not only thinking about cultivation? Duan Yu was taken aback. Jojo, what should we do now? Although Jojo's lotus, why are you winking at me? Why did he subconsciously keep her here, still tormenting me? Arbor expressionlessly. This guy was really strange. A gust of wind was suddenly attacked from behind. Arbor waited on you, didn't even seeing that his breathing even in his closely swatted away. Why don't you cultivate here with him? Couldn't Jojo, but secret. Why don't you tell me? Are you Lotus's subordinate person become settled down? Look at his thought to herself. He's so silly and clumsy. A person who is bound by the infuriating, but they don't seem to be most likely to not be able to raise his chin and look back at Arbor only by letting someone pull the spirit by Jojo. How about this? Don't tell me that your crown talisman in Arbor tilted now caused him to lose his head. Let's lock him up and trembled. Why not? Let him cultivate. Inspiration and talisman surface floated out. What do you think of this mind? But it was
The
Arbor's
doppelganger
talisman flashed.
He asked
very
rapidly.
Is that tower prison
Suddenly,
in a corner?
I understand.
Shadows appeared
Previously,
beside Arbor.
you
The
also
little fellow
lost
was
them
some
confused
few
in
steps
the
forward,
and
even the
the
tower
used
upon
his
his
talent
set
up
up
from
by
behind
Arbor's
the
small
wall.
face
With a series of
rustling
expressions
saying,
I don't
understand when my master pulled away. Duan, you couldn't help curling his lip. A certain person sighed as he continued to attack. Just as he was about to backhand and let him swarm in, he saw the chilly wind blowing from behind his
That can't be right.
You're so
Arbor's little face.
You were the one who released that talisman.
Just as
You were
she
the
was
one
about to
who
turn her
threw
head.
it. Sensing
She
the
felt
Arbor
expressionlessly
refused to admit that
Arbor
was pressed back against the tree trunk. Jojo, you're being too unkind by saying that.
She was really shocked.
You were clearly the one who was
holding
that talisman.
Why did
In other words,
you won't leave
even
him out
from
of
his
his
state of cultivation,
Arbor watched
you also
him
wanted
secretly
secretly by the
as
active
M.O.Yen's
tall figure.
Wasn't this person?
Arbor looked at
Why'd you hit
him?
him?
This was a
The
talisman.
little stoic
touched
touched
the
the
back of the man.
Xiao
You're the one
Wu
who was
tricked
no matter
he
how
wakes
hard
up,
she racked her
he'll
brain.
definitely make you
if she
pay
saw the
for it.
man's
It was a big bump on the
pressing
back of his
closer.
head.
It was clear that
twitched
Duan,
and he swatted away the raven
closer,
closer.
Jojo's
so
lotus
close
was
that their
truly
breaths
pitiful.
were about
He stomped
to
his
would
feet,
definitely die of
He suddenly
exasperation
nibbled on her
and
lips.
Long story
short,
I'm telling you, he can only
he
stay
reached
on
out
your
and
shit
hugged
for
her
2
up
minutes
the
and lingering on her lips.
I will
You'll wake up
retaliate.
soon. Arbor's face.
Duan,
What's going
you
on?
said
Jojo stammered.
The
You
venerable
were hesitant
Peter
about
just
whether
to use this
You didn't lose
talisman
your
on
son's
him
senses at
again,
all, so he could
and the
properly
others
enter
finally
closed
closed
door
door
cultivation.
cultivation.
The defensive barrier outside.
Arbor nodded
really
This fellow stretched out his leg,
set up an illusion.
Why are they
formation.
fighting light?
Let's not talk about this for now.
To accompany
Arbor
Arbor
was
was speechless.
speechless.
Cultivation.
He just
She
remembered
watched
his
his
hand to look
to
at the
move
spirit
up and down.
Otherwise,
wanting
he wouldn't
to
be able to
hurry up
this
and
guy.
untie it.
He actually
Arbor
can't. Is there
heard
something
shouting
wrong with
or
her
hear
brother
you
at all?
Brother,
Why did he make
right?
so
Calm
many
down,
spirits
calm down,
behind
calm
his
down.
wisp of
He was
your
just
aura
I'm
on
joking.
her?
You should
Don't
be the
leave.
venerable
Don't
peach
leave.
blossom.
I'm not
As for how
mortal.
long he
I'm
would
not
leaving
leaving
you
you.
after.
I'm
No
just
one
gonna
raised
stand
his
here.
hand.
This guy was
Watch
actually
pulled
quite
out
strong.
all the spirit.
But he had
Calm
lost
down.
his five
Calm
senses.
down. So
Jojo,
calm down.
what happened to
She
him?
quickly reached out.
The
What else could
obsession
have
had
made
his
that
back. She was
comfort
tricked
soul?
by Jojo.
She tried to come
Duan
to him and
whispered.
whispered.
Duan, you
Stop
got
it.
lips.
Jojo
Like a
whispered
Arbor thought that it
smoke.
look at me. He swiftly
Look at me.
drifted.
As long as he
Yes,
several
yes, let's
meters
watch.
away from
Look at my
raised
sincere
somewhere
eyes.
not
Subsequently,
too
I'm not
far
lying.
away
He
from
discovered that
I'm just going to stay
M.O.
here. This troublemaker
had
M.O.
stopped. She still had to go out.
She
and
suddenly
deal
turned her
with
head
Juan
as if he
understood.
unfocused.
He raised his
was
hand
done
with
on
these trivial
Arbor
matters.
very accurate.
She could come in.
I originally
was
wanted to lure him away.
M.O.Yen
17
abruptly
fool actually remained.
If she didn't know in her heart that
looks like she's not
sat
completely
down, she would have
unconscious
jumped in
under the
fright.
trees
She's already
sharp
this dumb.
glint.
Arbor wanted to
She
cry,
still freaking
but
knows how to
after
protect
sensing
yours.
that his treasure was
She called out
a
through
good
her
spiritual
consciousness.
The crown
Duan,
prince
you
calmed
calmed
down.
in his mind.
Where are you?
Entered a
Sir
cultivation
Jojo's heart
state
also
with peace
I'll
of
come and
mind.
think
Fuck
of everyone
there
with
was
so many
people
She really
here
didn't
right
want to
now.
stand
After
here.
the little
With
stoic
hubby
stealthily
set
set
up
up
what's
and
going on?
undid her
Street.
belt
Where are you
with
now?
formation.
Arbor
And
really
left
couldn't
behind her
afford to
aura.
lose this
Since
sense
the
of
group
herself.
finally
I'm in Lon
left
Hubby.
quietly
Stand
on an
there and
island
chill
full
chill.
of coconut
Watch
trees.
hubby
I'll come
carefully.
over.
Come here.
If there's
Help me
anything,
think of
wrong,
something. Arbor
tell
made
me
a prompt
immediately.
decision. Chapter 4562. Chapter
Alright,
4565.
After her husband was
rushed over
hit
to your
by the
side
rapid
right away.
cultivation talisman,
Arbor
there was
breathed
something
a sigh
wrong
of
with
relief.
Who
Xiao
would have
Xiao
thought that
was
she
worried to
freaking
death.
heaved a sigh
Before
of relief
leaving,
too
Arbor
quickly.
took the time
Before
to make
long,
a trip to
Chocho's
the main planet.
flustered and
The
exasperated
main planet was the
voice
only
traveled
place
into
that
her
very
conscious.
few people could
Master,
set foot on without Sir
it's
Jojo's
bad.
permission. I don't know what's going
This
on
was
with the island
Duan
you're
Yu's
on,
first
but
time
someone
seeing
reinforced
an
an
appearance
isolation
isolation
barrier
barrier
from
from
the
the
air in
outside.
front of him,
A barrier
and
set
reveal
up by
mountains
transcendent
and
God
rivers in the
realm.
distance.
Its
It was as if
defense
layers
is
upon
super
layers
strong.
of painting
Chocho
scrolls
can't
were
get in.
unfolding
What?
before his
Xiao
eyes.
Mu's eyes
The
widened
magnificent
until they were
palace of
round balls.
immortals. She then looked up at the
aside
sky,
the heavy fog
on the verge
in
of
front of him.
tears. The thin
M.O.
veil
Yen,
covering
this
the
fraud.
palace of immortals.
When did she
slowly
slowly
appear
appear
an
before
isolation
his
barrier
eyes?
on the island? It was truly
With this fellow's
magnificent,
cultivation,
like a waning
very
dream.
few people could
Come,
barge into
Arbor
this
tugged
isolation
on his
barrier,
sleeve,
right?
pulling him back.
Arbor
from
was
his
a bit
daze.
flustered.
Duan
and
Yu hastily
exasperated.
followed. And
She looked at the
couldn't help
dozen
but
or
blink.
so spirit
Jojo,
binding ropes.
this is your
tied
treasure
around
haul.
her.
Then
The more
glanced at her
Arbor
husband,
looked at the treasure
who was
haul
sitting
in front of
beside
him,
her like
the
an
more he
old
liked
monk
it.
in
MHM,
meditation.
MHM.
Duan Yu.
How is
Feng
it?
Changqing. It's truly
Rotten peach
magnificent.
blossoms.
Duan Yu
Mine.
sighed with
Save
emotion
me.
as he followed
Can someone
Arbor
come and
into
save
the
her?
longevity hall.
Was there anyone. When Duan,
How could you be
stepped
someone
on
who
the
could
first
calm
floor,
down?
He
If
saw
she was
that
tied
the
up
high
here by
dome was like a
JoJo's
sky
lotus
full
and
of
had to squat
stars.
for a full half a
Countless
year,
balls of light,
then really
of
JoJo
various
would
sizes
become
floated
yesterday's
above their
daylilies.
heads. Suddenly,
A light
ball of
chuckle
light
came from not
swooped
far
down
behind
at
her.
high speed.
Arbor tilted her
directly
head
crashed
and looked
into
over.
them.
Arbor
only to
quickly
see
scooped it
Duan
up
Yu
and
slowly
peeled
walking
off the
over with a
outer
faint
layer of
smile.
light.
His
revealing
appearance
a
was
dagger
actually somewhat
brimming with
deserving of a
purple
beating.
light.
Arbor
It could cut through
glared at
hair
that person
and cut
with
through
her
iron like
iron-shaped
mud.
eyes.
When that dagger
Hurry,
swung,
hurry,
a purple
and
light
think of something
faintly flashed.
Her
in the
husband
air.
had mutated,
accompanied by the
so
power
she
of
really had
lightning.
no way to
It
deal with
sliced
him
a
now.
spirit weapon.
The only thing
that
she could do
Arbor
now
casually
was to
tossed
subdue
out
this
in two
fellow with a ripping
and lock him
sound.
up in a small black
Here,
room.
Arbor
Only then
tossed
could
it
this
to
fellow
Duan Yu.
completely
It took a
stop.
fancy to you,
or
Or
Take
she
it
could
with you.
admit defeat.
It's pretty good.
And drag
Duan
this
Yu
fellow
held
out
it
of
in his
Star
hand
Domain.
with a smile
It would
in his
only take
eyes.
15
With a
days to
flash,
torment him.
he appeared
in the
several
outside
meters
world.
away.
It was
The
better
power
than
of space.
tormenting him here. I wonder how many of these short
Arbor wanted to
blades
cry,
and daggers
but had no
master
tears.
forged.
They're
JoJo,
all origin
do you
restoration
remember?
weapons
Remember
with
what?
the power of space
Arbor snapped
attached.
at him. His
My
little
Aunt
face
Master is
showing
too
a
strong.
bit of fierceness.
Does he usually have nothing
Do you
to
remember
do?
what happened
So he
at Hollow
fiddles with
Mountain?
these
I
origin
was also
restoration
tied up by the
weapons
spirit
all day
binding
long.
rope.
This was
asked you to
refined
untie
by my
me,
martial uncle.
but you flipped
It's
me
equivalent
over
to a
along with the
sane
tree.
artifact here.
It
Take
hurt
it.
like hell.
It jumped down.
My hand
and
is about
chose
to
you,
break,
which means it likes
This was
you.
really a little
Arbor
inauspicious,
tugged at him.
Star.
Come,
beating
follow
him up
me
like a
upstairs
dog
to
the
get
first
something.
time they met.
Duan Yu
He really
faintly
didn't know
smiled
what he
as he
saw
glanced
in
at
her.
Arbor.
After
He
branding
really
this
touched his
dagger
sore
with
spot.
flowing purple
Was this
light,
the time
he recalled
to
it back
reminisce
to his
about the
conscious.
past?
And
If they
slowly
continued
followed
talking,
after
JoJo's
Arbor.
lotus
When the
would
two of
open
them
her eyes
arrived
again.
at the second floor,
Shut up.
Duan Yu was
Arbor
quite
yelled in
shocked.
exasperation.
In front of his eyes was
Hurry
a
up and
vast
think of
sea
something.
of stars.
Can you set up a barrier
Rows of
or
small
something?
bottles of
And
various
lock
colors and
JoJo's
shapes
lotus
were arranged
in a little
in
black
square
room first.
formation.
Duan
Layer
Yu
by layer,
harumphed
they were
and
arranged
cast
from
a
the top of the
sidelong
dome.
glance.
Their number
at
could
a
be
certain
described as
expressionless
innumerable,
person who was
Arbor
meditating
beckoned
on the
him
side.
to a position
Although I don't
against
want
the
to
wall.
admit it, in addition
This
to
fellow's
rows
cultivation
of gold
is
rimmed
still
Jinan
slightly
cabinets.
higher than mine.
There was also a small
See,
platform.
I can
that
even
was a
enter the
foot
defensive
wide.
barrier he set up
Xiaomu
with a bit
used
of
a
effort.
fence of
It goes
glowing
without saying
gemstones
that I
as
can't
thick
lock him
as
up
her
either.
fingers to encircle.
Duan Yu suddenly
The 9
leaned
steps
over
were made of
and looked
pure
at her
gold.
with a grin.
At the center of the
JoJo,
highest platform,
you look quite
there was a
comical being
9
tied up here
stars
right now.
mirroring the moon
How about I
cauldron,
chop this tree
which
in
was
half for
gurgling
you,
and
so that
emitting
you can
hot
hug it
steam and move
Wait a
around
moment.
without any
Arbor
effort.
abandoned
Ha, ha, ha,
Duan
ha,
Yu
ha.
and
Every
dashed up the
dog
platform.
has his day.
Duan Yu,
And the heavens
who was
will
standing at
spare
the bottom of the
anyone.
9 steps,
Without another
and looking
word,
up at the little
Arbor
fellow's
lifted a
series
small
of
hand
actions,
from under the
couldn't
spirit
help but
binding
twitch
rope
his mouth
and smack Duan
exasperated.
Yu's large head.
This platform
he grumpily
must have been
shouted,
built by this
"Scram,"
fellow for
if
his
he didn't
wicked
come to
taste.
help. It was like a divine altar. One oddball child. Duan Yu flew up the 9-story platform and arrived beside Arbor. He saw the little fellow lift the cauldron's lid, and her eyes curved. Chapter 45-66. A rather rich medicinal fragrance flowed out of the cauldron, spreading to the entire second floor of the Hall of Longevity. Duan Yu's eyes also brightened. What kind of pill is this? The fragrance is so pleasant. Just by smelling it, it's enough to make one feel refreshed. This is a Jewel Heaven Jade Dragon Pill. I refined it with great care. Arbor patted the cauldron with a grin, and a string of pills jumped out and obediently entered the emerald jade bottle in her hand. Arbor filled 3 full bottles, and the remaining dozen or so pills were placed in a small porcelain can. She handed it to Duan Yu. This fellow sighed and muttered softly, "The Jasper Sky Jade Dragon Pill is really difficult to refine. I've been refining here for a day and a night for 24 hours, and I've only produced a little over 300 pills. It's so slow." Duan Yu held the small porcelain can in his hand and speechlessly glanced at Arbor. What 24 hours for a day and night? In the outside world, Sir Jojo had refined 300 or so pills in just 2 hours. Most importantly, this guy must have been too lazy to watch the fire, so he left the cauldron here and left. Maybe she suddenly woke up after some time and should withdraw the pills. A day and a night had already passed in the star domain. The actual time needed probably wouldn't take that long. Just eat this as a snack. Later, go outside and fill up another Jewel Heaven Jade Dragon Pill. With your cultivation, eating this diluted pill won't have much effect. Arbor put the 3 large jade bottles into her inner world. These are the pills I prepared to kill the Heavenly Fate Battle Group. With their cultivation, if they can eat one within a month, it will be very beneficial to their cultivation. Come with me. The two left the Hall of Longevity and returned to their original secluded courtyard. The Jewel Heaven Jade Dragon Pill was like an emerald water vein, encircling the entire courtyard like a pearl. Wait a moment. Arbor bent down and took out a large piece of paste-like Jewel Heaven Jade Dragon Pill. She compressed it into small green beads and threw them all into a carved wooden box. There were probably hundreds of small green beads in this box. Arbor handed it to Duan Yu and solemnly instructed, "With your cultivation, you can only take one of these completely undiluted fine jade dragons every 7 days. If I eat 7 of them, my cultivation will probably advance by a small step. You can't eat all the time. After eating 7 pills, You'll have to stop for a year and a half before you can continue taking them. Eating the fine sky jade dragon for a long time was enough to subtly improve one's bones, tendons, and meridians. At the same time, it could also clean up all the hidden injuries in one's body. Okay, Duan Yu nodded with a smile. The two of them left the star field, and Arbor tossed the 3 bottles of Jewel Sky Jade Dragon pills to Crown Prince Rome, asking him to consider how to distribute them. The elites of the 3 prefectures had to improve themselves to the greatest extent within half a year. This required a variety of medicinal resources to keep up with their cultivation speed. She didn't have the patience to rely on Arbor alone to refine the pills, so she naturally instructed Ming Yasi to gather a group of pill alchemists to help on the island as soon as possible. At that time, He would also bring a group of pill alchemists over. Counting the days, they should arrive in a few days. Brothers, you've worked hard, but everyone's efforts definitely won't go to waste. The 3 bottles of pills in my hands are called Jewel Sky Jade Dragon pills. They are excellent pills refined from saint-grade materials. You only need to take 1 pill every month. Chapter 4567. This way, it can expand the meridians, raise the aptitude of the root bone, advance the body's cultivation, and so on. All of these are extraordinary effects. Arbor chatted with that fellow Mi Guang for the time it took to burn a stick of incense before coming out of the car's cave. He saw rows of well-trained members of the Killing Heavens Fate Squad gathering on the large drill field. Rome was currently boosting morale. Qiao Mu only heard the vassal prince say, "Everyone's sweat and effort today will be repaid in the future." Here are the 300 Jewel Skies Jade Dragon pills that the Crown Princess prepared for us. The effects are miraculous, and anyone who consumes them will know. In the next 7 days, the first 100 brothers to complete all the missions in the shortest time will receive the resources that you deserve, as well as this pill. Arbor expressionlessly gathered his sleeves and walked over with small steps. As he walked, he was still thinking, this Rome is really eloquent. Staying by Duan Yu's side, Duan Yu probably didn't need to use his brain to draft memorials and write documents. Duan Yu only needed to order him around. TSK, TSK. The little fellow had yet to finish lamenting. She saw Commandery Princess Wu Shuang bouncing out from the side and looking at her with sparkling eyes. "Sister-in-law, are you idle?" Arbor expressionlessly glanced at her. "What's the matter? Since you're idle, let's spar." Commandery Princess Wu Shuang exclaimed excitedly. "I've always heard that sister-in-law's martial arts are exquisite and that your cultivation far surpasses others. Since you're idle, let's arbor." Sikong Fulling rushed over while panting. I finally found you. Where did you go just now? I searched the entire island, but couldn't find you. What happened to you?" Arbor saw that she was sweating profusely and stuttering when she spoke, so he indifferently swept her a glance and nonchalantly interrupted her. "I just went to the car's cave to rest for a while. Do you need something? You come with me." Sikong Fulling reached out to grab her wrist. Arbor dodged to the side, displeasure written all over his face. Not just any random person could touch Sir Jojo. "If you have something to say, just say it. Why are you pulling me around?" And Wu Shuang interjected and raised her hand to stand between the little stoic and Sikong Fulling. "Besides, everything is based on first come, first served. I was the one who spoke to sister-in-law first. We still have things to do." "No way," Sikong Fulling called out with a sullen face. "What important matter could you have? Isn't he still going around looking for people to spar with?" "Me?" Princess Wu Shuang was furious. "What's wrong with sparring? Is sparring not a proper thing to do?" The purpose of sparring was to improve one's martial arts and cultivation. That was the most serious thing to do. "Arbor, come with me. Take a look at my brother. He's in a lot of pain. No antidote seems to work." Startled, Arbor turned to look at Sikong Fulling. What happened to Ding Yun? Looking at Sikong Fulling's anxious and sweaty appearance, it should not be fake. Arbor knitted his brows and looked up to see Duan Yu walking over from the back of the military fields formation. "Jojo,
Duan Yu raised his brows and slowly approached her. Princess Wushuang inexplicably glanced at this guy vigilantly, as if she was facing a great enemy. Wasn't this Sangzhou's majesty a bit too handsome? He was already on par with her big brother. How could that be possible? She didn't see her brother today, so she didn't know where this swindler ran off to. Chapter 4568. How could he allow such a handsome young man to wander around his sister-in-law? Wasn't he making trouble for himself? As soon as Duan Yu walked over, he received Princess Wushuang's covetous gaze. Jojo, she's glaring at me. A certain person, who habitually complained, immediately turned to look at Arbor and aggrievedly blinked her beautiful peach blossom eyes. Princess Wushuang was a bit shocked and looked at that guy in disbelief. Fuck, this Sangzhou emperor was truly shameless. She merely glared at him, and he actually complained to her sister-in-law in front of her. Wushuang, don't glare at him, Arbor expressionlessly said, which instantly made Princess Wushuang feel unwell. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Where are you, eldest brother? Someone is trying to poach you. Look at Lil's sister-in-law's attitude toward this Sangzhou emperor. How nice was that? She had never seen her sister-in-law treat anyone so amiably. For example, that young Master Ding from before and His Highness Ming Yasi, who liked to chat awkwardly with her sister-in-law. It seemed like Lil's sister-in-law had never treated them nicely. They were both handsome young men, unparalleled in the world, and good-looking men. Even she could see Lil's sister-in-law's differential treatment. Eldest brother, hurry back. I feel like you're being cheated on. How could Xiaomu have known that her one sentence would cause this commandery princess's heart to go up and down? When Princess Wushuang returned to her senses, she instantly discovered that her innocent and beautiful sister-in-law had already left with a wild man. Oh no, Sangzhou Emperor. Where are you going? Princess Wushuang was anxious and leaped over. Wait for me, sister-in-law, wait. Eldest brother, I can only help you up to this point. I'll keep an eye on my sister-in-law. I absolutely won't let that dog emperor of Sangzhou get close to sister-in-law. Dog emperor, remove your dog paws. You're not allowed to tug on my sister-in-law's sleeve. Eldest brother, I really dote on you. That dog emperor of Sangzhou, don't say that. Look, he looks like a dog, and his voice is magnetic and gentle. If it were any other girl, she would have already been moved. Only my sister-in-law, this little stoic weirdo that's hard to understand, always turns a blind eye to other people. Sigh, I feel sorry for you, brother. Hurry up and come back. Don't go missing. You're about to lose your wife. Third young Master Fu came out of the cave with a stack of books and saw his wife's conflicted expression. He hurriedly swung the book into his inner world and chuckled as he followed behind her. He asked in a small voice, Wife, what's wrong? Why do you have such an ugly expression? His wife had been having a great time on the island these few days. As long as she wanted to, she could go around looking for brothers to spar with. Although the brothers who were forced to spar with her were very unwilling. Going up against a deity realm level 7 expert, with the brother's ability, they could only end up being beaten up. But he couldn't stop his daughter-in-law from finding people to spar with. It was better to beat others than to beat oneself. Third young Master Fu thought in his heart. Thus, he gladly praised her. He was always helping the tyrant and helping his wife harm his brothers. Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and follow them. Princess Wushuang pinched him and quickly followed behind. Sikong Fuling was naturally very displeased. She came to Arbor for help, but who knew that there would be several tails following behind her? Not only did the Emperor of Sangzhou follow her, but even that Princess Wushuang and third young Master Fu followed along. Chapter 4569. Her elder brother's illness, she really didn't want so many people to see it. Everyone, please wait. Sikong Fuling suddenly turned to look at Princess Wushuang and the others when they arrived at a karst cave. She said with a cold expression, Eldest brother is very ill. If too many people go in, it will disturb him. Please forgive us. Princess Wushuang glanced at Arbor and was about to say something. She saw that Sangzhou Emperor smile at his sister-in-law like a willow in the spring breeze.
His smile was pure and gentle as he said, "Go in. I'll wait for you here." Heavens, how could she speak ill of a person who had such a smiling face? His smile was as bright and beautiful as the sun. Even the distant stars couldn't compare to half of his smile. Princess Wushuang clutched her chest with one hand. "Eldest brother, sorry, I'm going to change sides. This dog Emperor Songzhou is seriously too good-looking." That was why it was said that something like good looks really couldn't be desired. The saying that lust blinded one's mind wasn't wrong at all. Third young master, Fu hurriedly pounced over and hugged his wife, turning to leave while dragging her along. Shuang, why do you keep looking at that Songzhou Emperor? What's there to look at about this guy? Isn't he just a little bit more handsome than the average person? That Songzhou family is all repulsive. He's the only one who's a little bit good-looking. His looks aren't even a 10,000th of your husband's. Don't look, ah. Aha. Your skin is indeed as thick as a city gate's iron bastion. Princess Wushuang lamented inwardly. Arbor looked back at that quarrelsome pair and shook his head exasperatedly. He turned to nod at Duan Yu, indicating for him not to worry. Only then did Arbor turn around and follow Sikong fulling into that dark and gloomy karst cave. There was no light in the darkness, so they couldn't see their fingers in front of them. However, with Arbor's eyesight, he could completely adapt to the dark environment in front of him in an instant. Moreover, as long as she released her divine conscience, she could see the situation inside the karst cave clearly. This karst cave wasn't very big. A dark figure was curled up in the innermost corner of the cave. His body seemed to be wrapped in a thin blanket as he leaned against the wall, trembling non-stop. Sikong Fulling laughed mockingly. "I didn't lie to you this time. You don't have to leave so many helpers outside the cave, as if I might harm you at any time. With your current skills, you shouldn't be able to do anything to me now," Arbor said very honestly. When Sikong Fulling heard this, she was so angry that her chest was about to swell. Can this guy not speak? His words could drive even a saint mad with anger. He could not help but argue with her. "Then why did you find a transcendent state to stay outside the cave? Are you afraid that we will eat you?" Arbor glanced at her. "If a fight breaks out, I can't be without a helper." Sikong Fulling was at a loss for words. She felt unbearably stifled by this fellow's words and inexplicably indignant. "What nonsense are you spouting? Hurry over and take a look." Arbor paced over expressionlessly and coldly said, "From just now until now, you've been the only one spouting nonsense." Sikong Fulling, I fucking want to slap this stoic face to death. When Arbor approached, she finally discovered that young Master Ding, who was curled up in a corner of the cave wall, was drenched in sweat from head to toe, as if he had a flood. He was curled up against the cave wall, wishing for nothing more than to become one with the karst cave. When he saw the little stoic approaching, he involuntarily shrunk back. Chapter 4570. It seemed that what Sikong Fulling said earlier was true. She still remembered that when she bumped into Sikong Fulling on Devastating Island, Sikong Fulling repeatedly glared at her with red eyebrows and green eyes, saying that she harmed her big brother and so on. Arbor even carefully thought about it back then. She didn't seem to have harmed young Sir Ding, right? What did she mean by she harmed young Sir Ding? She really didn't understand. Dingyan looked extremely uncomfortable. This illness seemed to be abnormally torturous. It made him lean against the wall as he panted heavily. "Big brother," Sikong Fulling called out anxiously. Don't, come here." Young Sir Ding's stifled voice was heard, very much rejecting their approach. "You're almost half dead, so why are you still flaunting your superiority?" Arbor muttered coldly, and several silver needles flew out with a raise of her hand. Her acupoints were extremely accurate, and the silver needles that flew out from a distance all landed very accurately on a man's arm, shoulder, and neck. Young Sir Ding's trembling body stiffened slightly. "My big brother is already like this, so can't you say a few soft words?" Sikong Fulling said angrily. "Are you here to put in a good word for me, or to treat a patient?" Sikong Fulling choked on the little stoic's words and stammered. Then do you have any solutions?" I naturally have to examine him to know the solution. She wasn't a deity who could tell what was wrong with this guy with a glance from a distance.
Of course, she still had to take his pulse first to know the specifics. Arbor paused and looked back at Seekong Fulling. You leave first. Seekong Fulling didn't bicker with her this time and only silently glanced at Arbor. She bit her lip and said, You must help him, okay? Arbor didn't turn back and said indifferently, A doctor is benevolent and will do his best. Seekong Fulling didn't waste her breath. Hearing the soft footsteps, Arbor knew that Seekong Fulling had already walked out. She took a few steps forward and took out a needle bag from her sleeve, planning to give young Sir Ding a few more needles. Who knew that this young sir would hastily shrink back and let out a suppressed growl. I said don't come over. Do you think I really want to come? Your sister is worried about you, so she asked me to come. Arbor glanced at him. There are 3 kinds of patients I hate the most in my life. What a load of nonsense. You're doubting me. Weirdo, sick, and uncooperative. You're blind and brainless. How many types do you have? Arbor threw out a spirit-binding rope and wrapped it around young Master Ding's body. She spread her fingers and raised the rope. The other end of the rope was gently held in her hand. For this kind of uncooperative patient, I'm afraid that you'll have to be careful. I usually beat them until they're convinced, Arbor said coldly as he pulled on the rope. Young Sir Ding's body was bound by the spirit-binding rope, and he was involuntarily dragged over from the cave wall by the little stoic. He stumbled and fell in front of her. The little stoic lowered her head to look, and only then did she clearly see his ghastly pale small face. Normally, when she saw this guy, his coquettish eyes would flirt everywhere, but today he appeared to be too miserable. Not only was his entire face as white as a sheet of paper, but his long hair was completely drenched in sweat, and strands of it covered his face. His insufferably enchanting and charming aura was nowhere to be found. What does it hurt? Arbor grabbed his hand and took his pulse. She couldn't stop her elegant brows from knitting together in a flash. Strange, his body was very healthy. It didn't seem like he was poisoned or suffered any serious injuries. Could it be that the 2 siblings colluded to deceive her? Chapter 4571. Arbor's gaze instantly turned sharp and cold. You guys lied to me? Was she deceived again? Ever since she experienced 7 Flowers' deceit, the little stoic had been vaguely accumulating anger in her heart. She wanted to vent it, but she couldn't, stifling it unbearably. She normally didn't come into contact with those swindlers, so it was fine if she couldn't recall them. But once she did, the new enmity would be compounded with the old hatred. She was extremely furious, and her gaze seemed to ignite with flames as she glared at Ding Yun. She even had the thought of eating him alive. She was still inexplicably worried for him just now. But it turned out that these people were here to deceive her again. Damn swindlers, big swindlers. They all liked to deceive Jojo. Was Jojo a pitiful little person for others to amuse? The little stoic grabbed young Sir Ding's hand and increased her strength, as if wanting to directly snap his wrist. What was rather strange was that young Sir Ding didn't seem to have any strength in his body. He didn't even have the strength to push her hand away. He was barely suppressing the trembling of his body, and the scene was a bit strange. The little stoic stared at him coldly for a while with a taut face. He looked up and smiled at her, his voice trembling as he said, I lied to you. So you still won't go out? Extremely senseless. The little stoic angrily flung his hand away and turned to walk out of the cave. Where's Seekong Fulling? The little stoic angrily rushed out of the cave and hollered. What's wrong? Duan Yu's gaze was puzzled when he saw how furious she was. Didn't she go to see a doctor? Why did she anger the little fellow to this extent? Arbor was so angry that she didn't want to speak. Duan Yu said, Miss Seekong said she was going to prepare some hot water and clean cloth. What's with the pretense? Arbor snorted and tugged at Duan Yu. Let's go. Duan Yu naturally didn't know what happened. Seeing that she was very angry right now, it wasn't convenient for him to ask anymore, so he nodded and said, Okay. The 2 of them headed towards the beach. On the way, Arbor's entire face was puffed up with anger. She really believed that Seekong Fulling was possessed to actually believe this pair of siblings. Young Master Ding's story about being stranded on a deserted island at the age of 4 and eating sea fish for 3 years was also made up. Days felt like years on a deserted island, and eating fish tasted bland. Was this all a lie to Jojo? Arbor suddenly stopped in his tracks. He carefully recalled the situation just now and couldn't help but frown. Jojo. Duan Yu frowned in confusion. What happened to Jojo? Could it be that because of that brat's pitiful background, Xiao Xiao really had some sympathy for him? Just thinking about it made him feel extremely unhappy. Duan Yu, can you wait for me? Arbor threw down this sentence and suddenly turned to run. Duan Yu turned his head, his gaze gloomy as he watched her figure slip away like a wisp of smoke. He muttered to himself, "Sigh, when will I be able to change this bad habit of having a hard mouth and a soft heart?" The fact that Jojo was so nice to people who had nothing to do with him was really heartbreaking. On the other side, inside a secluded and cramped karst cave, Arbor sprinted all the way here. Just as she stepped into this karst cave, a faint scent of blood assaulted her nose. Her heart skipped a beat. Ding, ting, ding. Don't you dare die on my island and cause trouble for me. Arbor shouted angrily and quickly ran inside. The scene before her caused her pitch-black pupils to contract slightly, and her breathing couldn't help but tighten. Chapter 4572. Ding Yun was lying crookedly on the ground, looking even more miserable than when she left. His entire body was curled up into a ball, his mouth muttering something indistinctly. Arbor couldn't hear a single word clearly. She quickly dashed forward, raised her hand, and very roughly flipped his entire body over. Cough, cough, cough. Ding Yun seemed to be choked, his body was trembling, and he couldn't stop coughing. How are you? Xiao Mu's small stoic face darkened as she gruffly helped him up. She directly raised her hand to slap an unknown pill into his mouth. Your pulse is very stable. There is no indication of any illness. Old illness. Ding Yun's body kept trembling. His entire head was drenched in sweat. I'm fine, he stammered in a low voice. What do you mean you're fine? Blood is coming out of your mouth. Arbor raised her hand and inserted a few needles into a few of his acupuncture points to relieve pain. If you don't tell me the truth, I can't help you. Nothing. Ding Yun finally managed to raise his head and weakly gave her a faint smile. I'm really fine. It's all Fu Ling's fault. She made a fuss. This is an old illness. Wait for a while, it will pass. What's wrong with you? Don't tell me it's intermittent. Arbor pulled a long face and helped him to sit upright. I'll give you a few more needles to relieve the pain. If you feel any discomfort, tell me immediately. There was nothing wrong with this person's body, but looking at his distorted face and expression, it seemed like he was in extreme pain. Could it be an extremely strong poison, and she couldn't detect it? Arbor muttered to herself for a moment and inserted a few more needles into his body. Ding Yun's body trembled slightly, and he couldn't sit still. Arbor raised her hand to support him, frowning as she stared at him. Do you want to take the painkiller? No. Ugh. Young Master Ding couldn't help but be speechless. This guy was clearly asking him in an inquiring tone, but in the end, he still slapped the painkiller pill into his mouth. It was such a crude method that it made people feel vexed just by looking at it. You are back again? I'll come back if I want to. Is it any of your business? The little stoic retorted irritably with a cold face. Young Master Ding was speechless. She had obviously rushed back because she was worried about him. So why was there nothing good coming out of her mouth? I forgive you. Arbor couldn't help but feel a little amused. He retorted, What do I need your forgiveness for? You usually speak bluntly to me, but in fact you still care about me. Arbor gave him a hee-hee and said coldly, I just don't want a living person like you to die on my island and stain my place. I can't not listen to you. Why does a stutterer like you like to talk so much? Arbor impatiently pulled out the silver needles from his body. He stared at him and then secretly sighed in relief. This damn stutterer should be much better now, and he wasn't trembling as badly as before. His appearance just now looked like he was trembling so much that his organs were about to be flung out. You don't want to tell the truth. I indeed can't tell what illness you have from your pulse, Arbor said coldly. Finger. No need. Chapter 4573. Is it up to you to say no? Young Sir Ding. Do you think you have the right to say no to me with your current tatter body? Young Sir Ding. Why do I suddenly feel like beating her to death? Why was this child always so infuriating with her words? Didn't she know that he was still a patient? Couldn't she unleash a doctor's benevolence and treat her patient better? You have two choices right now. 1. Stretch out your hand and let out your blood obediently. 2. I'll beat you up and drag you like a dead dog. I'll cut a random spot and let out some blood. After Arbor said this, he saw Ding Yun, this punk, sensibly lift his sleeve and offer a ghastly pale palm soaked in sweat to him. Arbor used a small knife to cut his index finger and expressionlessly took a few drops of his blood. I need to study it before I can tell you what's going on, Arbor said coldly. Jojo, are you worried about me? Arbor chuckled again. Don't think too highly of yourself. I'm just not used to there being people in this world that I can't feel and people that I can't treat. Young Sir Ding. The more he looked at this headstrong and conceited little fellow, the more he liked her. How is it? Can I come in? Duan Yu's voice sounded from outside the cave. Arbor replied, You can come in now. Young Sir Ding looked up and stared at that young monarch of Tsangzhou, who was slowly entering the cave with a complicated gaze. When I heard Miss Seekong's mournful cries earlier, I thought that young Sir Ding was about to die. Duan Yu mocked with a smirk. I've disappointed your majesty. Young Sir Ding chuckled. He wanted to struggle up, but he felt weak all over. With Jojo around, I naturally won't die. Young Sir Ding said with a smile. If I died, Jojo would probably be very sad. Arbor had already turned to walk outside and didn't even look back when he heard this. Sad my ass. Duan Yu harumphed and turned to walk out of the car's cave. He coldly said, Jojo probably doesn't want you to die on her island and stink, affecting her appetite. Young Master Ding was speechless. What do you think? How was my eldest brother now? Seekong Fulling rushed over while carrying hot water and cloth strips. Where's eldest brother? I won't die for now. Arbor brushed past her and suddenly stopped. Do you know what kind of poison he was poisoned with? Big brother didn't mention it to you. Seekong Fulling asked with a puzzled look. He didn't say anything. Seekong Fulling was silent for a moment before she looked up at Arbor and said, Since Big Brother didn't say, then he naturally has his own considerations. Arbor turned to leave, fuming the entire way. She couldn't resist clenching her fists and muttering in her mind. I don't believe that there's a poison in this world that Arbor, can't detoxify. Jojo. Duan Yu chased after her and frowned. Do you think he might be faking it? Arbor also thought that Ding Yun, this punk, was probably faking his illness at first. But she could still tell whether this person was really in pain or faking it. Arbor shook his head. Although he didn't have a favorable impression of this guy, he still felt a bit of sympathy for him when he saw how much pain he was in earlier. His illness is a bit strange. This was her first time seeing it after practicing medicine for so many years. His pulse was steady, and he was as healthy as a normal person's. Chapter 4574. Ding Yun looked very healthy, but his entire body hurt like a sieve. Could it be a mental toxin? Then, there should be some clues to follow. She couldn't detect any problems with his pulse, so she should check his blood later. Jojo. Duan Yu gently tugged on her sleeve. Look, you've been busy for half a day. Let's go eat first. At the mention of eating, Arbor's eyes lit up as expected, and she instantly tossed young Master Ding's illness to the back of her mind. You're right, she said to Duan Yu in high spirits. Let's go eat first. Let's talk after eating. Duan Yu nodded with a grin as he inwardly mused. As expected, as long as it's about eating, his chow will let go of everything. How nice, what are we eating today? How about sour fish in vinegar soup? Duan Yu, you and Jojo's Lien both don't like spicy food, right? Who said so? I am me, and Lien is Lien. How can I be as weak as him? Why would I cry after eating spicy food? Arbor blinked.
Did Lien cry? I don't think so. Normally, when he ate spicy food, he would most furrow his brows and then stop eating it. Duan Yu harumphed. Don't be fooled by his usual immortal-like appearance. He's actually very annoying. He hates salty and spicy food the most. And he doesn't like sweet food either. Haha, he's so picky. If you don't like him, then don't. Unlike me, who's easy to feed everywhere. I'm not picky about anything. Arbor silently looked up at him. Duan Yu's voice abruptly stopped as he looked in shock at the little fellow's departing figure. Was he imagining things just now? Why did it feel like Sir Jojo just rolled his eyes at him? My Chow, what did you do to me just now? Duan Yu's figure flashed as he chased after her. Did you roll your eyes at me? You really know him well, Arbor said indifferently and continued to walk forward without looking back. Sir Jojo usually didn't research what Jojo's lotus liked to eat and what she didn't like. She didn't expect Duan Yu to understand Jojo's lotus so well. Duan Yu, Jojo's gaze was so strange. What should he do? Jojo, can you tell me what you were thinking when you stared at me just now? What was going on with this inexplicably wretched expression? Nothing. Arbor snorted and turned his head to glare at him. He forcefully changed the topic. I've been busy recently. I haven't asked about you. What could have happened to me? Duan Yu looked at her innocently. I'm perfectly fine. Don't you see that I'm quite free right now? Otherwise, I wouldn't have come looking for you. Arbor was silent for a moment, hesitating whether or not he should ask him about noble consort Duan. Arbor became even more hesitant as she was worried that she would tear open Duan Yu's wound that had just healed a little bit. At this time, they heard hurried footsteps. A member of the Heavenly Fate squad bowed to the two of them. Crown Princess, His Majesty Tsangzhou, the young master of the Dragon Clan of Forgetfulness, has brought many people over. Many of them are injured and are coming ashore. Our people have temporarily surrounded them. Do you two want to go over and take a look? Arbor quickly nodded and met Duan Yu's eyes. Let's go. Let's go over and take a look, Duan Yu quickly said. The Dragon Clan of Forgetfulness's Dragon Clan had finally arrived. Who knew what the current situation was? Chapter 4575. When Arbor and Duan Yu rushed over, they immediately saw Long Huan dragging a group of people toward the shore with a disheveled expression. A young merman about 17 or 18 years old stumbled his way onto the shore. When he looked up, he just happened to meet Arbor's icy and apathetic eyes. This fellow shuddered in fright, and the trident in his hand fell to the ground with a clang, almost hitting his toes. Duan Yu silently twitched his mouth and glanced at the little stoic beside him in amusement. The stoic face expressionlessly looked at the group in front of her, a faint trace of coldness on her lips. What is it? Did your grandmother send people to kill your way back? Brother. Long Shangyun immediately ran over when she received the news. She didn't have time to bicker with the little stoic and hastily ran up to support the disheveled Long Huan, who seemed to have exhausted all his strength. Brother, your complexion is so unsightly. Are you injured? I'm fine. Long Huan panted heavily as he held onto Long Shangyun's hand. With great difficulty, he finally stepped onto the shore. Just as he stepped onto the soft snow, his entire body tilted and almost fell to the ground. Long Shangyun's brother caused a bit of a commotion. Arbor expressionlessly looked at them. And Wu Shuang and third young master Fu, who rushed over after hearing the news, looked at each other and couldn't suppress the smile on their lips. So strange. Why did they feel refreshed when they saw Long Huan so unlucky? Long Huan, this unlucky child, probably didn't have any good luck every time he saw the little stoic. He probably used up all his good luck in this lifetime when he bumped into the stoic face. The little stoic glanced at him, and her eyes suddenly brightened. She quickly ran toward the shore. Aunt Yi, Qingye just climbed out of the sea while dragging the swaying Qing Shue. Before she had time to clean her clothes, she saw Qiao running towards them. Qingye was very happy. Jojo, we meet again. This island looks quite spacious. Queen Qingye took out a spatial spirit device and smiled at Arbor. It seems that after a long time, The remaining 3,000 citizens of our country will be begging for Jojo's mercy. My pleasure. Arbor nodded slightly. Great, Jojo. Let's cut the pleasantries. Take a look and see if there's a place for them to stay. I'll let them out first. You can't stay in this spatial artifact for more than 24 hours. Now it's almost time. We should let them out quickly. If not, it'll be a big mess. Queen Qing Yi says. The space inside is very narrow. It's probably very crowded right now. Everyone must be feeling very uncomfortable. All right. Arbor didn't ask any more questions. He nodded and turned around decisively, leading Queen Qingye towards the cave. In the past, we found a very big cave. It's not a problem for us to shelter from the wind and rain. Arbor said, it's as big as the military field. It can hold 3,000 people. It's just that it's dark and damp. We need everyone to clean it up. Arbor stopped and said softly, Aunt Yi, if you need anything, just tell me. Qingye laughed loudly. For people like us who have lost our country, it's good that we have a place to stay. How can we have any other request? Let's settle down first. Chapter 4576. That's enough, child. Why do you look so miserable? Queen Qingyi wrapped her arms around Arbor's shoulders and said with a smile, it's not like Aunt Yi is someone who can't bear hardships. At worst, we can start all over again. As long as there are still people from Woman Kingdom, then one day, everything will be fine. Arbor couldn't help but admire her when he saw that she was very optimistic and didn't seem to be forcing a smile at all. If it were anyone else, if a small island with tens of thousands of people was slaughtered until only 1,000 or so people were left, they would be depressed for a period of time and wouldn't be able to crawl out of their grief. The queen was open-minded by nature and firmly believed that she would crawl back up from where she fell. She didn't need anyone to comfort her. Of course, it was very possible that this was just a forced smile. After all, so many innocent people died in Tianyin's hands. How could she easily forget such a deep-seated debt of blood? There will be a chance, Queen Qingyi said softly. What could she do when there was a chance? Arbor thought, one day, there would be a chance to uproot the entire Tianyin and make them pay the price for their repeated crimes. Qingyi turned her head to look at Xiao Mu and gave her a faint smile. The dead have already passed away. Only the living need to continue on and live each day well. Aunt Yi, Woman Kingdom will still return, Arbor said. I also firmly believe that there will be such a day. The living still had to continue living. As long as they worked hard, there would be a day when they could see a different tomorrow. Mummy? Facial paralysis. I said facial paralysis. Long Shangyun supported her eldest brother and followed behind them with a group of mermen. Long Shangyun called out twice, but couldn't help but feel angry when she saw that the little stoic ignored her. All right, let her go settle down the people from Woman Kingdom first. Long Huan took a deep breath and felt like his legs were filled with lead. His face was so numb that he couldn't muster any strength. Eldest brother, where's your mermaid tail? Why didn't it mutate after entering the water? Long Huan couldn't help but glance at her with a wry smile. It's been almost a day and night since last night. The mutated shark tail disappeared not long ago. Long Shangyun was taken aback as she stared at him in astonishment. Big brother, yeah, don't be nervous. This is the first time I've encountered such a situation. Long Huan took a deep breath and closed his eyes. He comforted his sister softly. It's probably because he was too tired. These days, I haven't been able to eat or sleep well. I also have to mediate with the people sent by grandmother. I'm very tired. That's not to the extent. Long Shangyun suddenly covered her small mouth and revealed a shocked expression. Ah, big brother, could it be because of what grandmother said, that the power of the mermaid pearl's baptism is getting weaker and weaker in our bodies? Every time I mutate the shark tail, it's the same as using this power. And because we don't receive the appropriate replenishment, this power will only weaken in our bodies until it's gone. Don't talk nonsense, Long Xie said with a serious expression. We are born mermen. The power of the merfolk is something that we should possess. Furthermore, through continuous cultivation, we can strengthen this power in our bodies. It has nothing to do with the baptism of the 10,000-year-old mermaid pearl.
How can it have nothing to do with it? Long Shangyun muttered softly. I heard grandmother say that our talent, growth, and future. Chapter 4577. It's all related to the baptism of the mermaid pearl. Long Shangyun purposely lowered her voice and muttered, for example, the people of our previous generation are much more talented than us. It's said that the grandchildren of our next generation will be mentally retarded after losing the baptism of the mermaid pearl. Nonsense. Long Qian glared at Long Shangyun speechlessly. Shangyun, how can you believe the completely baseless words of the elders and grandmother? Long Qian shook his head. I can tell you clearly now. The baptism of the mermaid pearl will only improve the merfolk's physique and growth potential, but it's only an improvement and not a complete reversal. In reality, whether we succeed or not still depends on whether we work hard enough. Long Shangyun pouted. I know, big brother. Don't lecture me every time you open your mouth. Long Qian shook his head helplessly. When he looked up, he saw the little stoic expressionlessly walking out of the cave. Strangely, Prince Emo, who always stuck to her, wasn't here today. Behind the little stoic-faced cousin stood another young sir with a magnificent and extraordinary bearing. How is it? Arbor shouted at the two of them. Long Shangyun was speechless. I'm fucking used to the way the stoic talks to me. Long Qian coughed softly and subconsciously brushed his wet hair away from his face. 3,000 personal guards ready to participate in the training at any time. Arbor glanced at him. I'm asking you about Long Qian's attitude. Are you in such a sorry state because Long Qian's men chased you all the way here? Long Qian laughed bitterly. Long Shangyun couldn't help but widen her eyes and shout in exasperation. Impossible. How could grandmother send men to kill my brother? She didn't want to kill me. Long Qian laughed bitterly again. It's just that grandmother wants to bring us back. If she really wanted to kill us, how could my 3,000 subordinates withstand the simultaneous attack of thousands of merfolk? Arbor nodded indifferently. This means that Long Qian still has some true feelings for you. When Long Huan heard this, he felt an inexplicable pain in his heart. Grandmother treats you with sincerity. Whether or not you are sincere, I can feel it. Arbor's cold voice interrupted Long Huan's words. With an indifferent expression, he said, Men, take them down and settle them down. You must be tired from the long journey. Take a rest for the night. If there's anything, we can discuss it tomorrow. That's fine too. Then younger cousin, before Long Yin could finish speaking, he saw the little stoic turn around and leave. He could not help but feel bitter in his heart as he thought to himself, looks like my cousin has a deep prejudice against the merman race. Judging from her attitude, it seemed like she wanted to avoid interacting with them as much as possible. She spoke and acted in a businesslike manner and simply couldn't approach this cold-hearted little stoic. Big brother, don't think too much. It wasn't easy to bring everyone here. You must be tired after so many days. You should go and rest first. Long Shangyun supported her elder brother and said in a low voice, The young sir behind the stoic face is Tsangzhou's newly ascended emperor. Long Qian laughed bitterly. There are so many talented people by my cousin's side. As expected, every one of them is extraordinary. Humph, that stoic face made me angry all the time. Long Shangyun said angrily. Chapter 4578. But forget it. Seeing how her personality is, I won't bicker with her. Long Shangyun pursed her lips. This fellow was about the same age as her. She originally thought that after staying on the island for a while, she would be able to talk to her. Who knew that Stoic usually didn't even bother to look at her when she saw her? She waited until she mustered up the courage to chat with her while blushing. In the end, she couldn't even say 2 sentences before it was over. That Stoic had an ultimate trump card when it came to talking to people. That was, she could kill the conversation anytime and anywhere. She truly couldn't chat with her. If you chatted with her, you would only end up looking for abuse. How stifling. Arbor heard the siblings chattering away as they walked away, and he couldn't resist turning back to take a look. Duan Yu smiled and kindly reminded, Jojo,
Sourfish soup with vinegar. Arbor's eyes lit up, and he quickly hooked his finger at him. Let's call Big Brother and the Phone Brothers and return to Paradise Planet to eat. Okay. Duanyu nodded with a grin. Big Brother and the Phone Brothers should be at the large drill field behind the snowy ridge. The two then teleported to the snowy ridge drill field and walked around to check. Seeing that the soldiers of the three provinces were all training intensely, Xiao Mu nodded inwardly and had someone call Feng Changqing and his brother over. Where's my big brother? Big Brother Mu was here just now. How did he disappear in such a short time? Feng Changqing looked around in confusion and asked his younger brother, Did you see Brother Mu? No, I was with you the whole time just now, Feng Changfei mumbled. Feng Zhangfei muttered. Then he saw something in the crowd with his sharp eyes and pointed outside. Big Brother is over there. Arbor turned to look and saw Mu Xingqian's back facing them, seemingly talking to someone. Arbor quickly walked over. When he got closer, he realized that Big Brother was standing face to face with Sikong Fuling, discussing something. Sikong Fuling's eyes were still moist with tears, and her eyes were a bit red. A strange feeling inexplicably flitted across Arbor's mind. Sikong Fuling and Big Brother? When did they become so familiar? Big Brother. The little stoic creased her brows and sprinted over, tugging at her eldest brother's clothes. Let's go eat. Jojo. Mu Xingqian turned to look at his sister and nodded with a smile. Okay. Sikong Fuling glanced at Arbor and pursed her lips without uttering a word. Mu Xingqian said, Miss Sikong, have you eaten? Do you want to come with us? Arbor stood beside Mu Xingqian. He blinked and looked at his elder brother with a strange expression. Something was really wrong. Big Brother actually took the initiative to invite Sikong Fuling to have a meal together. Sikong Fuling glanced at Arbor and received the threat in that young lady's eyes. You're dead meat if you dare to agree. She snorted and waved her hand. I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. At least you know your place. Arbor thought to himself. He turned and tugged at Mu Xingqian. Big Brother, let's go. They circled around to the back of the military field and put some distance between them before Arbor dragged them into the star domain. Mu Xingqian scratched his head. Didn't we just eat casually? Why did we enter the star domain to eat? Duanyu couldn't help but chuckle. Big Brother, you don't understand. You can't be careless when it comes to eating. Mu Xingqian speechlessly glanced at Duanyu and said exasperatedly, Fine, fine. It was this older brother who was too careless. Chapter 4579. Arbor instructed Xiuqiu to boil a pot of fresh spirit bamboo, shoot mushroom soup, while he took out several dishes such as 100 Treasures duck, sour fish soup and vinegar sauce, and so on. Let's eat. Looking at the steaming dishes in front of her, a certain someone's appetite was whetted, and she sat down first. Mu Xingqian chuckled. The little fellow placed the dining table under a peach tree, and a fragrant breeze wafted over. Eldest brother, you've been quite busy recently. Eat more. The little stoic warmly picked up several dishes for her elder brother. This moved Mu Xingqian immensely. His starry eyes looked at his younger sister with a gratified expression that said, My younger sister has grown up and knows how to dote on others. Duanyu secretly rejoiced. Why not? With his understanding of the little fellow, this fellow was so gentle right now because she definitely had a backup plan waiting for his older brother. Eldest brother, it's all thanks to you, Changqing, and the others for helping with the collective training to kill the Heavenly Fate battle team. In the future, when we officially join the battle to kill the Heavenly Fate battle team, you guys absolutely have contributed greatly. Mu Xingqian said with a smile. Younger sister, this is what we should do. Feng Changqing nodded. Everyone has a responsibility to deal with the Heavenly Fate battle team. There's no such thing as contribution. Eldest brother, are you very familiar with Sikong Fuling? Where Mu Xingqian was startled and instantly stopped talking. Weren't they talking about killing the Heavenly Fate battle team just now? Why did the topic change so abruptly? The little stoic expressionlessly took a bite of rice. Sikong Fuling is a very scheming person. You can't tell what she's thinking. Eldest brother, you're simple and easily fooled. Don't be fooled by her. Mu Xingqian was exasperated. Younger sister's earnest and instructive tone of an elder truly made one not know whether to laugh or cry. Younger sister, I'm not too familiar with Miss Seekong. It's just that when everyone landed in the realm of misfortune at the same time, the guardian helped us, so we can't be considered that familiar. Arbor perked up his ears to listen, and the words, "I'm a bit curious," were written all over his face. Can you tell me? Eldest brother, Duan Yu truly understood the meaning of the song. Before Arbor could speak, he asked with a grin, "And what is the realm of misfortune?" Oh, about that, Mu Xingqian didn't realize at all that Duan Ling Tian was trying to get information out of him. As soon as he started talking about his experience in the realm of misfortune, he immediately started talking bitterly. I see. Duan Yu nodded with a grin. In that case, eldest brother and that Miss Seekong have been through thick and thin. Mu Xingqian waved his hand. It's not that exaggerated. It's just brother-in-law, why are you here? Mu Xingqian suddenly raised his head and cried out in confusion. Qiao Qiao's body stiffened as she followed her brother's gaze. She saw a person fall down from the tree, and with a crash, he appeared in front of her, hanging upside down. Arbor, husband, you're climbing the roof to tear down the tiles. Can't you climb the tree to be a monkey? Duan Yu's brows twitched as he expressionlessly looked at a certain someone who had suddenly hung down and was swaying back and forth between him and Jojo. This person's head was tilted, and his jet-black hair was disheveled. His sparkling phoenix eyes peered over for the mess of black hair and stared fixedly at the two of them. He looked at Duan Yu, then at Arbor. He looked at Arbor, then at Duan Yu. His expression instantly turned grave. Soon after, he fell down from the tree. Chapter 4580. Arbor hastily reached out to hug him, intending to embrace this flower-like husband. However, this fellow overestimated her own height, so much so that her long-limbed husband covered her head and pressed her down. A certain Xiao was dumbfounded. Mu Xingqian couldn't resist rubbing his forehead. He simply couldn't bear to look at this foolish couple. Mo Yin's falling speed was fast, but the speed at which she was pressing down on him was even faster. Fortunately, he ultimately reached out his hand reflexively and picked up the little stoic. He flew through the air and landed steadily on a giant peach tree that was over 100 feet tall. Arbor returned to her senses and smacked him on the head without another word. What's wrong with you? Why did you run out again instead of cultivating properly? Who knows what you're doing all day long? Do you think you're doing the right thing? Prince Mo looked down at her, his handsome face dumbfounded and expressionless. He looks really stupid, Sir Jojo thought. What were you thinking when you looked at me and Duan Yu earlier? Arbor pinched her husband's cheeks with 2 fingers and pinched them hard. Were you thinking that I'm very familiar with these 2 people's auras and that I should beat them up? Mo Yin suddenly shook her head. This time, it was Sir Jojo's turn to be dumbfounded. Something wasn't right. How could this fellow still shake her head and express her stance? This was a conscious act. Still want to pretend? Sir Jojo was enraged. She pounced over and hooked his neck before viciously biting his ear. I'll bite you to death, you despicable bastard. You still want to deceive Sir Jojo. You don't freaking have a medium-speed cultivation talisman at all, right? Seeing that she was about to bite him, the crown prince suddenly turned his head and very accurately pressed his lips against hers. Screech, they met perfectly. This fellow was simply too adept at this action. This mindset that he had to take a bite out of joy when his wife came up to him was truly deeply ingrained and dangerous. Arbor, what the hell? This guy's movements were as smooth as before he was hit. He didn't need to think at all. Are you faking it or not? Before Arbor could finish speaking, Prince Mo had already scooped him up. His other hand stirred the air in front of them as they swiftly entered the space-time passage, disappearing from Duan Yu, Mu Xingqian, and the other's sight in the blink of an eye. Big Brother Xingqian helplessly exchanged a glance with Duan Yu before asking, "Do you think we should chase after them?" "Of course we have to chase after them." Duan Yu hastily ran up without another word. Where did Mo Yin, that swindler, run off to?" "Chocho, little ball." Chocho's weak voice traveled over.
Crown Prince carried little Masta to Forest Planet? Do you want me to teleport you there? Although the Crown Prince was a little foolish now, his temper was still as arbitrary and tyrannical as before. Should she summon Big Brother and do on you over? In the future, if the Crown Prince found out that it was Chiochio who was dragging him down, would he beat Chiochio up? Duan Yu said with a grin, "If you don't summon me over right now, I'll beat you right now." A section of the little treant cried out, and it immediately felt that its vision was spinning. It turned out that just earlier, it had been pulled up from a branch and forced to the ground. Duan Yu was clearly smiling, but the treant felt that he was sinister and terrifying. The little treant swayed its pitiful little body as it was carried upside down by him. I'll send you over over. They're at Phoenix Spring. Chapter 4581. She didn't expect Duan Yu, this young man, to be so barbaric towards Chiochio, even though he looked handsome and refined. She thought he was a good person before, but it turned out he was the same kind of person as His Highness the Crown Prince. You turn Serpent Show upside down. Upside down. My brain is going to be congested. Do you have blood? Duan Yu couldn't help but laugh, and he reached out to flip him over. The little treant stepped on his arm and whined in protest. Why? Why don't I have blood? I'm not those ordinary plants outside. I still have vital signs, okay? I'm one of the 5 spirits. Holy wood, sir, holy wood. Chiochio, where did brother-in-law take sister? He's delirious right now, so he wouldn't do anything to sister, right? For example, beating up his sister. That wouldn't do. Even if Lien, this guy, was delirious, as long as he dared to lay a finger on his sister, he would definitely settle this score. Don't worry, big brother. Chiochio pursed his lips solemnly. Crown Prince the Great only wants Masta to accompany him in cultivating. How could he possibly hit Masta? Moreover, he dares to attack Masta? Unless he doesn't want to live anymore. Chiochio harumphed with his hands on his hips. It's at Phoenix Spring. Crown Prince the Great is very good at finding places. But that was right. After being struck by Master's rapid cultivation talisman, the Crown Prince would subconsciously search for a place with dense sacred energy to cultivate. And in the entire star domain, the place with the densest sacred energy should be at Phoenix Spring. With a wave of his hand, Chiochio transported everyone to Forest Planet. From afar, they could hear Hichin's exasperated shouting. Lien, I'm telling you, I'm just too lazy to fight with an idiot like you. Don't think I won't retaliate. It's because I see that you're an idiot and pitiful appearance. Duan Yu, and the others had just entered the forest when they saw Hichin flying out. He landed on the ground with a somersault and retreated a dozen steps before steadying himself. He looked back and met Duan Yu's sardonic eyes. He coughed awkwardly. What are you looking at? That guy seems to have been injected with chicken blood. His strength is boundless. Younger sister, younger sister, younger sister. Mu Xingqian's voice suddenly stopped when he saw the scene before him. The Phoenix Spring exuded an extremely dense amount of saint power, and the place where the saint energy was most concentrated was naturally the center of the Phoenix Spring. At this moment, half of Lien's body was submerged in the Phoenix Spring. Her entire body was shrouded in white mist, making her look hazy. Everyone could only see that fellow's long hair was spread out as he stared at the shore with his dark eyes. Beside Phoenix Spring, the little stoic was currently sitting cross-legged with her back facing them. Her back view looked stiff, and it was actually a bit comical. Sister? Mu Xingqian called out cautiously. Unexpectedly, a low chuckle came from his side. Mu Xingqian turned his head and saw Holy Sun Mi Yin restrain his smile and pretend to be very serious. He said in a deep voice, "Don't shout. She can't move." One of them was half submerged in the Phoenix Spring, while the other was sitting on the shore, separated by a dense layer of mist. The two of them faced each other, and their eyes met. Hey, why is Jojo still covered in an egg cough? Defensive barrier. Mu Xingqian was the first to speak, and almost said that it was an eggshell. The corner of Hichin's mouth twitched. The saint energy here is dense. If she stays here for a long time, she naturally won't be able to endure it. Mu Xingqian,
Chapter 4582. So brother-in-law was the one who put this eggshell defensive barrier on her? He really was quite considerate. Brother-in-law? You Mu Xingqian cautiously glanced at Emolian. You trapped sister here? Why do I feel like laughing when I see my sister's indignant expression? No, you must hold it in. If you laugh out loud, he'll be done for. Duan Yu curled his lips in amusement. He quickly ran to Arbor and squatted down to face her. Jojo, did that swindler Mo Lien use her sacred power to seal you inside the defensive barrier? Arbor blinked at him with all her might through the transparent eggshell barrier. Puffed. Duan Yu couldn't hold it in and quickly suppressed his laughter. Do you need my help? A water arrow suddenly shot toward his back. Duan Yu didn't even look and summoned the raven bone fan from his conscious, blocking most of the water mist with a splash. The remaining small portions splashed all over Mu Xingqian's head and faced the latter, stared at them in bewilderment. What was going on? Why was he the one suffering when these two were fighting? Emolian, I'm telling you, if you attack again, I'll beat you up. Duan Yu stood up and blocked in front of Jojo. He leisurely straightened out his wrinkled sleeves and glanced at the other side. Emolian jumped onto the shore with a whoosh, her head of fine black hair cascading to her waist. Her pitch-black phoenix eyes glinted coldly as she stared at Duan Yu. Duan Yu moved his slender legs and shifted his position, continuing to shield Lady Xiao Xiao behind him. He had blocked her completely. Emolian's eyes were enraged, and she abruptly conjured up a gust of wind mixed with dense, sacred power weight. Duan Yu raised his hand to block him and shifted his long legs to the side, releasing Arbor from behind him. That fire spirit ring filled with sacred energy had already reached Duan Yu and the others, but it suddenly vanished into thin air. Emolian's chilly eyes stared at Duan Yu for a good long while before shifting to her wife. She glanced at her again and again before silently withdrawing her hand. Emolian, look over here. Duan Yu called out, once again concealing Arbor's figure. Everyone was speechless. Prince Emo went from being calm, indifferent, and expressionless to being on the verge of going berserk. Duan Yu dodged with a hearty laugh and squatted next to Arbor. He propped up his chin with one hand and asked with a chuckle, Do you understand now? He was the kind of person who could only train in peace when he had Jojo right under his nose. Arbor glared fixedly at Duan Yu with her almond-shaped eyes. If she could move right now, she would definitely jump up and pounce on him, bashing Duan Yu's head violently. I forgot. Jojo's acupoints have been sealed by Stink Lotus True Energy, so she can't even speak. Duan Yu flicked his finger, and a gust of energy rushed into the defensive barrier, unsealing Arbor's sealed acupoints. When the little stoic discovered that she could speak again, she stiffly cursed with a dark face. Didn't you say that as long as I leave the illusion talisman matrix by his side, it can last at least half a day? Hubby was simply crazy. She wasn't a mascot that needed to be placed by his side to urge him to cultivate properly. She was infuriated just thinking about it. She clearly tricked Hubby, but she didn't expect that she would be the one tricking herself in the end. Ever since Hubby was hit by this speed cultivation curse, Sir Jojo had been on the losing end the entire time. How infuriating. Logically speaking, it should work. Chapter 4583. In reality, it doesn't seem like I can fool him for long. Arbor stood up abruptly and raised her hand to withdraw her defensive barrier. However, this defensive barrier was personally set up by Mo Lien, so she really couldn't withdraw it with her meager cultivation. Sir Jojo was so angry that he jumped in front of Duan Yu and started punching and kicking him through the defensive barrier. Younger sister, calm down, calm down. Mu Xingqian wanted to go up and stop the fight, but he suddenly saw his brother-in-law's icy eyes rolling as his chilly gaze landed on him. Fuck! Why did he look like a petrified ghost? His body was filled with an eerie, ghostly aura, scaring people to death. Mu Xingqian was so frightened that he couldn't move for the time being. Mo Lien stepped in front of the little stoic and Duan Yu, shielding them. Her chilly eyes stared at Duan Yu for a split second, but she actually didn't beat him up. Yin hooked her hand and carried the little stoic back to Phoenix Spring. She placed her on the ground and arranged a cross-legged cultivation posture for her. He was going to enter Phoenix Spring to continue cultivating. Who knew? I haven't finished eating. Arbor roared in exasperation, and the surroundings were instantly silenced by her roar. As it turned out, the reason why the little stoic's back was so stiff and her expression so indignant was all because she hadn't finished eating that meal. Big Brother Moo truly couldn't hold it in and snickered. Younger sister, look at brother-in-law's attitude. If you don't stand guard here, he probably won't stop either. I think you should stay here and accompany him for a while. When he slowly recovers, won't you be able to retire with success? Duan Yu. The little stoic roared angrily. Duan Yu held back his laughter and quickly walked up with a nod. What are your orders, my Chiao? Hurry and remove this barrier. She huffed. If I want to cultivate, I'll cultivate. It's not like I haven't cultivated before. But who would cultivate with a defensive barrier? It was so comical. That won't do. Duan Yu shook his head and put away his playful smile. He said seriously, this place is permeated with holy power. If you absorb too much of it, it won't be good for your body. Stinky Lotus defensive shield can effectively block the same power. Laugh if you want to. Arbor glared at him. No, Jojo isn't funny at all. Where's the soup? The little stoic mumbled. I'll wait. Duan Yu pursed his lips and reached out to place a steaming pot of spiritual bamboo shoot soup in front of her. The soup is pretty good. I already drank a bowl. Duan Yu handed a pot of soup to the little stoic's defensive barrier with a grin. Do you want a bowl and chopsticks? Everyone was speechless. Compared to Jojo and Yin, you're the laughable one. One day in the outside world was 12 days in the star field. The little stoic listlessly accompanied her husband in his cultivation. Separated by the defensive barrier, she would eat and drink from time to time. Other than not having the freedom to move around, he was still able to get by. Her husband was expressionless while cultivating. His entire person was immersed in the Phoenix Spring like a jade sculpture. He looked so cold and exquisite that she really wanted to touch him. The young crown Prince Consort propped her chin on her hand as her dark eyes darted back and forth. Her gaze would occasionally linger on her husband. Jojo. Duan Yu appeared next to her with a grin while carrying a lunchbox. I could take you out today. Arbor rolled his eyes at him. I'm not lying to you. He waved his hand and removed the defensive barrier on her body. The little stoic immediately jumped up and patted the non-existent dust off her body. Chapter 4584. Arbor looked up at Duan Yu and pursed her lips. Then, she surreptitiously cast a glance in her husband's direction. Don't worry, he's truly sunk into a cultivation state now, so it's very difficult for him to pull himself out like before, Duan Yu said with a smile. Don't worry, he really won't be able to pull himself out of a cultivation state for a while. As expected, her husband didn't react at all. The little stoic was instantly delighted, and she said briskly, since there's an abundance of holy energy circulating around husband, does this mean that he can really stabilize his cultivation realm after this closed-door cultivation? Duan Yu harumphed. He was about to break through to the late-stage divine, venerable realm previously. However, a large part of the reason why his cultivation soared so rapidly was due to the ancient seal in his body. Arbor had heard a little about the ancient lotus seal in Yin's body. Duan Yu said, this ancient seal is a good thing. Unfortunately, if he can't absorb all of it for his own use, he paused and said, if it rejects the holy energy in his body, then it'll be troublesome. Forget it. He knows what he's doing. Duan Yu glanced at the worried little stoic and said with a smile, you still don't believe him? With his abilities, he'll naturally be fine. It's just a matter of time. Moreover, the late-stage divine venerable realm can't be stabilized in 1 or 2 years. Even if he used your strange talisman this time, he probably won't be able to completely stabilize this time. We still have to continue pushing forward. Duan Yu sighed and said, it's not like you don't understand him. With the current situation, He simply can't settle down. Arbor paced back and forth beside Duan Yu until Duan Yu was exasperated. He couldn't resist grabbing her. All right, stop pacing back and forth. You're making me dizzy. Jojo, don't you still have us no matter what happens? What are you worrying about? Let's go out first and let him cultivate here alone for a period of time. During this time, don't enter the star domain again and let him sense your familiar aura. Otherwise, this guy's brain will go haywire and he'll forcefully pull himself out of his state to see you. Not only will all our previous efforts be wasted, we might even injure ourselves. Arbor quickly nodded and obediently agreed. He obediently left the star domain with Duan Yu. Second sect leader. Arbor looked expressionlessly at Senior Fine Light, who was rushing towards her. Second sect master, where have you been for a day and a night? Why haven't I seen you yet? Second generation sect leader, let me tell you, I have created a very practical spiritual artifact. If there are enough materials, I can mass produce it. Mi Guang proudly took out an axe from his back. This spiritual weapon can change into 3 forms: sword, saber, and axe. How about it? Not bad, right? You want to sell to the soldiers of the 3 prefectures. Senior Scattered Light blinked his dog eyes. How is it? The quality is good, right? Arbor nodded. I can help you sell it, but 1/3 of the money will be used for the maintenance of the sect. Duan Yu's mouth twitched. Second sect leader. Who is so stupid to follow me Guang and call me second sect leader? Arbor pondered inwardly as she looked towards the source of the voice. She saw Commandery Princess Wu Shuang leading a group of people toward her with a grin. Huang He is here. Arbor's eyes involuntarily lit up when she saw the face of the woman beside Commandery Princess Wu Shuang. Second sect leader. Chapter 4585. Second generation sect master. A rippling cry, full of emotion, caused Arbor's small body to involuntarily tremble. He looked up and saw Qin Shi and Lu Zheng running over with smiles on their faces. Behind them were more than 20 excited disciples, and they all gathered around with a whoosh. Hurry and greet the second-generation sect master. Qin Shi waved his hand with a chuckle and turned to say to Arbor, second-generation sect master, these are Xuanji School's first-generation disciples. We've already found 70 to 80 people, and we've more or less found some clues about the remaining ones. Some of them are far away in the Holy Domain. Just summon them here when the time comes. Some of them are in closed-door cultivation and probably won't come out in the near future. Lu Zheng nodded repeatedly. There are only 2 disciples, and there's no news of them now. I've asked around, but no one can clearly say where they went. Arbor glanced at the 2 expressionlessly. Pretty efficient. It was indeed pretty good. The little stoic tossed this fraudulent search mission to Qin Shi and Lu Zheng. She originally didn't expect them to be able to find many people. After all, who the hell knew where those first-generation disciples were scattered right now? Besides, it had been so many years. Perhaps a portion of the elders had already ascended to immortality. Who knew? To tell the truth, it was simply like finding a needle in a haystack in a fantasy to rely on those unreliable nameplates given by Senior Xuanji to find all of them. However, Arbor didn't expect that Qin Shi and Lu Zheng would make such great progress in such a short time with this unreliable, lousy mission. Greetings, second-generation sect master. The voices of the 20-something Xuanji School disciples shook the heavens, and everyone appeared very excited. It would be even better if these fools could remove the words second-generation sect master from their titles. The Stoic looked at them expressionlessly, her heart completely unperturbed. Second-generation sect master. A middle-aged man strode forward and rubbed his hands, his tone extremely emotional. It's really been hard on you these past few years, second-generation sect master. Arbor said indifferently, It hasn't been hard on me. When that middle-aged man heard this, the rims of his eyes turned red dramatically. With a rueful expression, he said to the little Stoic, How can it not be bitter? Just thinking about it tells me that you've been living in poverty these past few years. After all,
You have to support the entire Xuanji school by yourself. For so many years, you have been working hard for the revival of our Xuanji school. That's right, that's right. The second sect leader is really noble. He didn't even tell us about his troubles. Admirable, admirable. As expected of our second sect leader. Arbor, everyone, do you have any misunderstandings about me? Lord Xiao has only taken over the Xuanji sect for a short period of time. Over the past few days, I've only chosen a location for the Xuanji sect and erected the mountain gate of the Xuanji sect. Other than that, wasn't she completely a hands-off boss? At this moment, he walked up and nodded his head in praise. He had a deeply moved expression on his face. You guys are absolutely right. Our Xiao is of noble character and unquestionable integrity. She is the role model of the world. He spoke without end. Arbor only wanted to cover his face with his hands. Back then, when I met her before we even met, Jojo was high-spirited and vigorous. She disregarded the danger to her life and lured away a high-level spirit beast for us, leading away a large beast tide. Sigh, I can't bear to look back on the past. Back then, Jojo was very different from others. Big sis, can you not talk about how you met back then? Chapter 4586. You might not believe it. Back when they were training in the Lava Mountain Range, didn't they attract the beast tide to trick people? After that, the little fat squirrel took advantage of every opportunity to clean up the battlefield, not even leaving behind a single spirit beast tooth for them. The words noble character and unquestionable integrity truly aren't suitable for this Lord Xiao. He was still rambling on. The more Chun Qi, Lu Zheng, and the other Xuanji sect disciples listened, the more moved they were. They completely didn't notice that Duan Yu, He Chun, and the others were twitching their mouths. The more serious Jojo appeared on the surface, the more his heart crumbled. According to their understanding of this little thing, she simply wouldn't be so kind-hearted as to lure away the beast tide or whatever. Perhaps this little fellow was using the beast tide to trick people. Judging from her serious expression, she probably wanted to slap He to death and yell at her to shut up while she was at it. Shut up, He. Don't make wild guesses about this Lord Xiao. You freaking constructed a lofty and imposing image of me in your heart, but in reality, that's not the case at all. Moreover, she remembered that she seemed to have explained the Lava Mountain Range incident to He. Unexpectedly, Fairy He was even more moved. She held her hand and wished for nothing more than to burst into tears and kept praising her for her kindness. She kept insisting that it was Jojo who saved them and was their great benefactor, and so on. Seeing that she couldn't communicate with this fellow, Arbor simply didn't mention it in the end. She didn't expect this fellow to bring up this hilarious incident again today. She already told her that the truth wasn't so. This fellow was living a dream. Enough. Arbor pulled a long face and quickly interrupted He's unceasing praises. He, you came at the right time. How many people from the Heavenly Pill Guild did you bring this time? Those who can come are all here. He immediately changed her attitude and restrained her smile when they talked about serious matters. Wang Yin, Peng, and Little Chow are all here. There are also several Earth-grade alchemists waiting for Jojo's instructions at any time. Arbor nodded in satisfaction. This time, we need to create a batch of nutritious liquid called the Fine Sky Jade Dragon Pill. I will provide the formula and guiding herbs when the time comes. You just need to make as many as you can. No problem. Fairy Yellow Crane nodded heavily and said, we can start refining pills right away. Arbor coughed lightly, grabbed Fairy Yellow Crane's small hand, and patted it twice, saying, do I look like such an unreasonable person? You've just arrived on the island and must be tired from the long journey. How about this? Have a good rest tonight, and come see me tomorrow morning. Let me demonstrate the refining method of the Jasper Sky Jade Dragon Dan. Yellow Crane Fairy was so touched that she held Arbor's hands and shook them vigorously. Jojo, you're so nice. Are you going to demonstrate to me again? Good. I knew this trip wouldn't be in vain. I love watching you refine pills the most. Watching you refine pills is a kind of enjoyment.
The several Earth-grade alchemy grandmasters looked at Fairy Yellow Crane with speechless faces. Yellow Crane was good at everything. She was approachable, lively, and cheerful. It was just that sometimes her brain might not work too well. Everyone didn't know whether to laugh or cry when they saw her like this. This appearance of meeting the second-generation sect master of the Xuanji sect was like a brainless fan. They didn't know what was going on. Arbor coughed and drew back his small hand expressionlessly, patting Yellow Crane's shoulder. Chapter 45:87. She said earnestly, "Refine well. Practice makes perfect. As long as your pill refinement speed and success rate increase, it will only be a matter of time before you improve your pill refinement skills." Yes. Huang He quickly cupped his hands. Everyone, they felt that Huang He, this child, had been tricked by Jojo ever since he was born. After Arbor finished talking with Huang He, she looked at Chun Chi and Lu Zheng. "I'm very happy that you guys could come." Everyone thought at the same time. The little sect master's expression really doesn't look happy. "You guys can settle down on the island for the time being. All right, do you still remember Hao Guang?" Why did Senior Hao Guang run away? Arbor belatedly realized that Hao Guang had slipped away at some point. "Second sect master, we can go find him ourselves." Chen Shi chuckled mischievously. The middle-aged man from before ground his teeth and harumphed. "I didn't expect to see Hao Guang in my lifetime. Looks like he's been doing quite well recently." He really is an irresponsible guy," another person said sarcastically. Arbor looked up at the sky and inexplicably felt a gust of gloomy wind blow past her face. Could it be that seniors Chun Chi and Lu Zheng had some old grudge with Hao Guang? Jojo loved to listen to gossip the most, so her stoic face was immediately replaced by a curious expression. "You guys, what special matters do you have with Senior Hao Guang?" Chin Chi cupped his hands at her. "We have a deep grudge with him. Second sect master, let's talk later. We'll go find that old punk first." Xiao Mu became even more curious when she saw him run off with his men after saying half of what he wanted to say. She took out a small butterfly and flicked her fingers. "Follow them and take a look. Don't let them beat Senior Hao Guang to death." Senior Hao Guang was a great help to her. She was still waiting for him to refine flying artifacts in batches. Huang He and the others can refine many pills for killing the heavenly seer now that they're here. Duan nodded and said, "The dozen or so pharmacists we've gathered will probably arrive in 2 days. At that time, the speed of refining Jewel Sky J-Dragon pills should be much faster." "When will the people from the Underworld region arrive?" Arbor's face tightened, and he waved to a disciple of the Tian Yun battle squad beside him. "Go back and ask that person. I want an accurate reply." "Yes." Consuming the Jasper Heaven J-Dragon pill would definitely allow their strength to rise by a level in a short period of time. The most important thing was that after consuming the Jewel Heaven J-Dragon pill, it did not end right away after upgrading. Its little bit of medicinal power could only be used in the body for 1 to 3 months. In the future, when he cultivated, he could clearly feel that his absorption speed had increased, his meridians had widened, and so on. It was a feeling that could not be described in words. Getting twice the result with half the effort was naturally an extremely good thing. While they were talking, a Sangzhou guard quickly ran over and saluted. "Reporting to your majesty, a few commoners have been fished up from the northwestern shore. They seem to still be breathing." Duan Yu turned to glance at Arbor. "I'll go take a look." Arbor followed him. "Let's go together." Their deserted island, which neighbored the sacred land of the Snowy Ridge, was covered in snow all year round and was uninhabited. Suddenly, several people without any cultivation drifted over from the sea. Don't you think it's strange? Not being able to tell was the strangest thing. Under the Sangzhou guard's lead, the group arrived at the northwestern shore. Sure enough, they saw several upright figures lying on the snowy ground. Chapter 45:88. Several Tsang province guards who were patrolling the northwest shore all turned their heads and respectfully bowed to them. Duan Yu waved his hand,
indicating that they didn't need to stand on ceremony, and strode forward. Arbor, Mu Xingxin, and the others also followed, their gazes seemingly landing on the commoners by the shore. They saw that those people were all wearing coarse hemp garments, their complexions emaciated and their bodies emaciated. They had soaked in the seawater for too long, so their bodies were blue from the cold, and their lips were also a bit purple. Arbor glanced at them before taking out a small packet of medicinal powder from his sleeve and handing it to its Sangzhou guard beside him. Boil it in warm water and feed each of them a mouthful. A packet of dispelling cold powder was enough to recover these people's chill bodies. However, this kind of recovery only treated the symptoms and not the root cause. These people looked like they were malnourished, so they couldn't recover in a day. Now, they could only wake them up for the time being before asking them what was going on. A moment later, those people indeed slowly regained consciousness under the effects of the dispelling cold powder. When they clearly saw Arbor, Duan Yu, and the others standing in front of them, the commoners who were muddle-headed from soaking in the seawater hastily knelt and begged for mercy, repeatedly shouting, "No, don't, sirs, don't kill us, don't." Arbor's gaze landed on a young man with a very sallow complexion and sunken eye sockets. "Tell us, where did you come from? Why did you drift to our snowy island?" That man trembled non-stop and kowtowed in trepidation as he begged for mercy. "Miss, spare us, spare us. We are villagers from a small fishing village outside the river of forgetfulness. Because the harvest this year was poor, ghostly monsters started appearing in the village. They stood stiffly, jumped, and bit people. As a result, those who could run all ran out. As for the remaining people, they were about to starve to death, so they had no choice but to follow the fireworm troop out to run boats. We didn't do anything bad. We really didn't do anything bad," the man said with tears in his eyes. "We were originally ordinary people from a fishing village, but because our lives were hard and we couldn't survive anymore, we followed others to run boats. We wanted to earn a few spirit coins so that we could exchange them for food." Jojo blinked. "What's the Fireworm Squad? I heard that they're the most famous pirate team in the region of the Forgotten River. They always like to take advantage of the time when the sky is about to turn dark to come out with their pirate ships to rob and intercept the nearby merchant ships." At one time, he was extremely savage, Duan Yu said in a low voice. However, because they intercepted the Morning Sunlight Pavilion's fleet from the Great Shang of the Divine Province, they were counterattacked once by the Morning Sunlight Pavilion, and their vitality seemed to be greatly damaged. "I didn't expect them to move out again after a few days of peace," Arbor replied with an "oh," and looked at the shivering people with an indifferent expression. "Since you joined the pirate group, why did you end up in the sea?" The young man shuddered as if he recalled a terrifying incident. "B-Boss disliked us for being a hindrance and didn't do our jobs well, so he threw us into the sea to feed the fish. Then you guys are really amazing." Arbor looked at them meaningfully. "This sea is densely filled with zombie fish, yet you normal people could actually drift here unscathed and just happen to encounter us." Jojo, Duan Yu's entire body suddenly tensed, as if he sensed an extreme danger, and he pulled Arbor to his side. Chapter 4589. At the same time, that young man with a sallow complexion and sunken eye sockets suddenly shuddered and abruptly exploded. The loud boom was accompanied by a pungent and unpleasant smell. The air was instantly filled with a putrid stench, and the patter of yellow powder drifted toward everyone like a continuous drizzle. Duan Yu flicked his sleeve to disperse a cyclone in front of him and pulled the little stoic behind him before coldly gazing over. They dodged in time, and their movements were extremely swift. By the time Duan Yu spoke, Ma Jiechen, Mi Yin, and Feng Changqing had already set up a defensive barrier. They finally managed to dodge the attack without mishap and kept the drifting yellow powder 3 feet away. Arbor poked his head out from behind Duan Yu and expressionlessly raised his hand. The blue spiritual cleansing fire burned over, but everyone clearly saw that the yellow powder continued to multiply under the blue spiritual cleansing fire.
There were still hundreds to thousands of floating yellow powder floating in the air, and they could be clearly seen with the naked eye. Xiaomu made a prompt decision and took out the realm of misfortune. With a casual swipe of her hand, she absorbed all of the yellow powder inside. Only then did everyone heave a sigh of relief. But the expression on their faces was not relaxed at all. 8 layers of the blue spiritual cleansing fire actually can't extinguish these yellow particles, Duan Yu said gravely. We have no idea what these things are. The venerable peach blossom immortal nodded. It looks like the heavenly fortune has come up with a new trick again. Everyone looked over and saw that the people they fished up from the sea were all smashed to pieces and couldn't be more dead. Arbor's expression was grave, and a trace of chilliness hung on his face. He flicked out the heart of misfortune, and that pitch-black bead with an inky luster slowly rose up. It emitted a myriad of black lights that slowly condensed into a black light screen in the air. The light screen rippled, and the myriad of black lights gently undulated like water ripples. The scene in the realm of misfortune was like an unfurled painting that slowly flowed down. Shadows appeared on the black light screen, moving slowly along with the running of the human figures. Everyone looked over. On the screen, several disciples of the City of Shadows were running madly on a vast expanse of land. Every one of them was covered in dirt, and their bodies were covered in wounds. Their complexions were sallow and emaciated, and they were in a sorry state. It was obvious that he had been tortured to death in the realm of misfortune and was on the verge of death. Speaking of which, there were about 20 to 30 City of Shadows disciples who were captured and sent to the heart of misfortune. However, after this period of tempering, the realm of misfortune had completely shattered their hopes in life. The remaining few should be the strongest disciples in the City of Shadows. They had lived the longest and fought for their lives the longest. However, after being tempered by thousands of killings in the realm of misfortune, no matter how strong a person's will was, their willpower would be almost completely worn out. Arbor remained silent as he stared at the City of Shadows disciples who were forced to run forward by the dark yellow particles. Hand over a strand of your life, soul, and submit to me. A City of Shadows disciple looked up at the sky like a startled bird. Who are you? The remaining 5 City of Shadows disciples didn't waste any words and directly handed over a strand of their life souls. They gritted their teeth and continued running forward. Arbor raised her hand, and the 5 strands of life souls immediately flew into her palm. Chapter 4590. At the same time, the 5 people heard a painful scream, and they immediately turned back to look with trepidation. They saw that a yellow powder had unfortunately landed on the left cheek of the companion who had asked the question earlier. Within a few minutes, his face started to fester with pus. Streams of putrid pus flowed down his face, bubbling and bubbling as they flowed down in a terrifying manner. The 5 City of Shadows disciples were so frightened that their limbs stiffened. But soon, they discovered that a transparent barrier had been erected around them. He didn't know when it was erected around his body, but it blocked all the powdery yellow particles outside of his body. The 5 people's pupils contracted as they watched the fine, sand-like yellow powder slowly spin upwards in the air as though it was lifted by a large, invisible palm. It drew an arc in the air and spiraled in circles, forming a whirlwind that didn't miss a single particle as it spun gently in the air. Just like a sentient, living creature, they were easily controlled by someone. The 5 people looked at each other in dismay before looking at their companion, who was blocked outside the transparent barrier, and the hand he extended to them for help. Then bit by bit, like sand flowing down, his body turned into pus bit by bit. The dark brown liquid seeped into the thick soil beneath their feet. The 5 people clearly saw that the normal soil color turned black in a few breaths. The mutated soil extended all the way forward. Duan Yu, He Chun, and Arbor's expressions changed at the same time, and their gazes turned grave. What the hell is this thing? Feng Zhanqing asked. I'm guessing that it should be the medicine men newly developed by the Heavenly Fate dynasty. Arbor's expression was very unsightly as he turned to Duan Yu and said, We need to inform this news and let all the city lords know about it. The message was passed down layer by layer, and the defense work was done. These medicine men are so powerful. If the Heavenly Fate dynasty uses them to attack cities and plunder lands, wouldn't they be invincible? Feng Zhongfei couldn't resist exclaiming. Arbor nodded gravely. If they really produce large batches of these medicine men, it will indeed be troublesome. I don't think it's possible to sell it in large quantities. Duan Yu glanced at her placatingly. If they really had the power to destroy a city, they could have used it when they attacked Zhouwei City back then, right? Arbor thought for a moment and nodded. Then spread the news first and have them take precautions. Duan Yu said quietly, "Don't be too worried." On the other hand, the 5 disciples of the City of Shadows in the realm of misfortune realized that the transparent barrier around them had been removed. He immediately knelt down uneasily and worriedly, bowing towards the southeast. "Thank you for saving my life, Master." At this moment, they already understood that the person who saved them was definitely the owner of the realm of misfortune. With a flip of his hand, he could summon clouds and rain with a flip of his hand. In the realm of misfortune, that person was a godlike existence. He could control everything in the realm of misfortune. Arbor stored the 5 life spirits into a soul-locking ring and into his consciousness. She then said to the 5 of them, "Train in the realm of misfortune for a while longer. When you break through to the god realm, I will release you." She casually tossed a bottle of Jewel Sky Jade Dragon pills to the 5 of them and said aloofly, "Remember, don't touch those yellow medicinal powders." "Yes, Master." Chapter 4591. Crack, crack. The sound of the heavy whip kept ringing out. All the onlookers on the deck were as silent as cicadas in winter. No one dared to speak. Mu Xiaoxiu even rubbed the corner of her clothes and stood beside Mu Qingyao with her head lowered. She was trembling so much that she could barely stand. Big sister," she called out pitifully. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito, and it was so broken that it revealed a sense of heartbreak. It was as if she was really heartbroken right now. Zhao, he really wanted to go up and gently hug his little junior sister and gently tell her not to be afraid. However, there were many Heavenly Fate sect disciples standing around watching them. Zhao, Yi, and Gui Xuan could only stay where they were and couldn't move around freely on the deck. "Big sister," Mu Xiaoxiu said softly, "just give in and beg for mercy." Mu Roxuan was tied to a wooden post at the bow of the ship. Because of the whipping, her clothes were almost completely torn. She had already lost her cultivation and couldn't circulate her energy to defend herself like ordinary cultivators. At this moment, the whips landed on her body again, and each time they landed, she was injured again and again. After 50 lashes, Mu Roxuan spat out blood. She was a little confused and almost fainted. "Roxuan." Mu Qingya finally moved from the stool and stood up. "Enough," she said angrily to Red, who was personally holding the whip. "Stop. Hall Master Gong. Roxuan already knows her mistake. Can you just let her go like this?" "Continue." Gong Songfeng coldly interrupted Mu Qingya and stared coldly at Mu Roxuan. "Or is Hall Master Mu willing to personally take the punishment on behalf of your daughter?" Mu Qingya was silent for a moment and didn't say anything. Gong Songfeng couldn't help but sneer. "It seems that Hall Master Mu isn't as protective of your daughter as I thought." Mu Qingya sneered. "Hall Master Gong really knows how to joke. Qingya is just an ordinary person. How can she withstand 100 lashes from your elite disciple?" Hong Yi cracked the whip with a grin and turned to look at Mu Qingya. "Since you're so close to your daughter, why don't you take the punishment on behalf of your daughter and let Hall Master Mu take the remaining 50 lashes?" Mu Qingya's lips twitched with a fake smile. "Redcoat really knows how to joke. Looks like you're not willing." Hong Yi blinked her eyes with a smile and clicked her tongue. "I didn't expect Hall Master Mu to be such a heartless person." Mu Qingya clenched her fists tightly and suppressed the dissatisfaction and anger in her heart. She forced a smile and said, "Hall Master Gong, my daughter was in the wrong this time. However, she is, after all, young and ignorant. Hall Master Gong and Vice Hall Master Meng, please give this Hall Master face and spare her this once. Rules are rules. Gong Song Feng sneered. Since you've already joined us, you should abide by the rules of the organization. You must obey the orders of your superiors. Don't ever touch anything that you shouldn't do. Mu Qingya's face twisted. But since Mu Rochuan dared to make the decision and release the human medicated bomb without permission, Gong Songfeng said coldly. Gong Songfeng looked at Mu Qingya coldly and said, "Then she must take full responsibility for this matter. Do you think it's over after this punishment? The human medicated bomb is such a rare resource that the organization has only successfully developed 10 of them." Chapter 4592. But now, she wasted 5 of them in one go. She even exposed our plan in advance. According to the little crown princess's temperament, she will definitely take this matter seriously and make arrangements as soon as possible. Now that the 3 provinces have received news that we have such a trump card in our hands, what do you think they will do? Mu Qingya's expression was ugly as she turned to look at the silent Mu Rochuan with her eyes closed. Hong Yi began to whip her again. Mu Xiaoxua had a pained expression as she bit the handkerchief in her hand and murmured, "Sister, sister, don't hit her anymore." Hong Yi suddenly turned around and smiled seductively at the little girl. Hong Yi patted the whip in her hand and tilted her head to look at Mu Xiaoxua coquettishly. "Why don't you do it instead? You two have such a deep sisterly relationship. Take 2 lashes for your sister and fulfill your fate." Mu Xiaoxua froze in place. Hong Yi gave a look to the Heavenly Fate sect disciples beside her. Those disciples stepped forward and tried to grab Mu Xiaoxua's arm. Mu Xiaoxua screamed in fright and knelt in front of her mother's chair, burrowing into her arms. "Mother, mother, what are you doing?" Mu Qingya was like an angry lioness as she immediately shielded Mu Xiaoxua in her arms and slapped away the hands of the Heavenly Fate sect disciples. She roared angrily, "Let's see who dares to touch my Schwer. TSK, TSK, TSK. Hong Yi swung the black whip in her hand. "This is called deep mother-daughter relationship. I thought I was seeing things. I didn't expect Hall Master Mu to be so biased as a mother." Mu Qingya seemed to realize something as she quickly steadied Mu Xiaoxua and looked awkwardly at the disheveled Mu Rochuan. However, Mu Rochuan didn't open her eyes from beginning to end and only bit her lips tightly. After dozens of lashes, there wasn't a piece of unharmed flesh on her body, but she didn't utter a single word. "Hall Master Mu, you didn't lie to us, did you? Is it really eldest Miss Mu who released the human medicine bomb?" Of course." Mu Qingya's voice suddenly changed. She shielded Mu Xiaoxua, who was trembling in her arms, and said sternly, "Why are you suspecting Hall Master Gong? Don't you know the relationship between Mu Rochuan and Arbor? Ever since Arbor stepped into the Mu family's house, Mu Rochuan has been jealous of her and tried to plot against her time and time again. These things are all well-founded and can be investigated." Also, Mu Qingya gulped and continued, "Because of Arbor, Mu Rochuan lost all her cultivation and her arms were broken. Now she's disabled. How could she not hate her to the core?" This child's thoughts went astray for a moment. He secretly learned about the Underground Hall's Medicine Man bombs and wanted to use them to destroy Arbor in one fell swoop. Redcoat smiled and rubbed her palms together. "The story is really well made. That's enough, Hall Master Mu. Now that the punishment is over, you can drag your good daughter back after the punishment is over." Then, she continued with the remaining 50 lashes. Mu Xiaoxua didn't dare to pretend anymore and didn't say a word from beginning to end. The mother and daughter curled up in a corner and counted like quails. They watched as Mu Rochuan was taken down from the wooden pillar on the verge of death after the 100 lashes. "Sister," Mu Xiaoxua cried and pounced forward. Chapter 4593. Hong Yi glanced at her in amusement and curved her thin lips at her. "All right, stop acting. You don't look like sisters at all. I told you to stand out and take a few whips for your sister, but you weren't willing.
Can't we be a little more realistic? She was so ugly, not at all like that stoic face. Stoic face was really an honest little girl. If she liked someone, she liked them. If she didn't, she didn't. If she didn't like someone, she couldn't be bothered to waste words with them. Forget about putting in the effort to act. She didn't even want to look at them. After you deceived her then, there really wasn't even the slightest possibility of being friends. Hong Yi threw down the whip in her hand dispiritedly and turned to walk slowly to Fan Meng and Fan Yu. Let's go and drink. Sister, does it hurt? Mu Xiaoxua sat at Mu Rochuan's bedside and wiped her tears with a handkerchief from time to time. Sigh, you child. Mu Qingyao looked at Mu Rochuan lovingly and turned to instruct the two maids, clean up eldest Miss wounds properly. Use the best medicine and ask me for more if you run out. Yes, Hall Master. Sister, are you angry at Xiaoxua? Mu Xiaoxua stammered with a trembling expression. Zhao, he couldn't bear it and hurriedly persuaded. How can that be? Eldest Miss Mu is little junior sister's elder sister. Naturally, she will uphold her elder sister's image and protect you. But sister, you haven't even opened your eyes to look at Xiaoxua since just now. Mu Xiaoxua twisted the handkerchief in her hand and said in a small voice, This time, it's Xiaoxua who dragged sister down. I won't be so rash in the future, all right? Sister, don't be angry at Xiaoxua. All right, sure, your sister is also tired. Let's go out first and let her have a good rest. Seeing that Mu Rochuan had no intention of speaking from beginning to end, Mu Qingyao also felt deeply awkward and couldn't continue this one-man show. The mother and daughter pair spoke a few more words carefully and were about to turn and leave, only to hear Mu Rochuan's hoarse voice drifting over from the bedside. Mother, your grace of giving birth to me. In this life, I have already repaid it. Mu Qingyao's heart skipped a beat, and she turned around to look. However, Mu Rochuan had already turned her face away, revealing the ancient scar on the side of her face that had been soaked in blood. Perhaps it was because of the heavy whip, but the old scar on his face seemed to have split open again. Only Mu Rochuan herself knew that any scars on her body were not scars. Only the one in his heart was deep and ruthless, so heavy that he couldn't breathe. The line dividing the Crown Prince's closed-door training. Today, I've gathered everyone here because I have an urgent mission for you. Today, we are going out to sea. We will search the nearest fishing villages along the coast. What we're searching for this time is the underground base that Tian Yun set up nearby. The target is very dangerous. It might be a new type of medicine man with extremely strong corpse poison. Everyone fears death, but from the day we joined to kill the heavenly fate, we must face death head-on. In the future, there will be countless difficulties waiting for us to overcome. Today is just the beginning. When Arbor, Duan Yu, and the others arrived at the military field, Er Rong had already finished his impassioned speech. Leading a group of people, Maez was currently distributing life-saving pills and some weapons to his subordinates. Chapter 4594. Arbor walked over and glanced at the group. Suddenly, he paused and calmly walked towards the Kar's cave. After entering the Kar's cave, he looked left and right to make sure there was no one around. It was only then that Xiao Mu waved her hand, releasing several figures. Qi Xinxin giggled as she pounced forward and hugged him. My Jojo, long time no see. Look, have I changed? You've leveled up, Arbor said expressionlessly. Ha 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 ha. Qi Xinxin laughed with her hands on her hips. Not only have I leveled up, my spiritual sense has also improved greatly. I am now a level 12 great spiritual master. How is it? Very good, Arbor nodded. Little Fatty ran forward with his belly bulging. He asked with a puzzled expression, Jojo, why did Cho-Cho tell me that you found a long-lost brother for me the moment I came out? Arbor's mouth twitched. He glanced at this fellow's bulging belly. After a moment of silence, he said, I'll let you guys go to the Tianji Mystic Realm to see my fat senior brother. Cho-Cho was such a scammer. He actually told little Fatty that his fat senior brother was his relative, Jojo. You found a senior brother? Yes. Not only that, I also found many of Xuanji School's first-generation disciples, Arbor said calmly.
You can meet many new friends this time. That's great. Qi Xianxian chuckled. I love meeting new friends the most. Mata rubbed his chin and smiled wretchedly. As for me, I love following Jojo around and robbing people. Don't you know how to speak? What robbing people? When has Jojo ever done such things? Qi Xianxian glanced at Mata and corrected him. This is called upholding justice. That's right. Arbor expressionlessly turned and walked out. His slightly raised lips showed that he was in an extremely good mood. Just as he reached the entrance of the Karst cave, he met Fairy Yellow Crane, who was looking for him. Little Yellow Crane said excitedly, I heard that you guys are planning to find the underground base of Heavenly Fate. I'm going too. I have to go too. All right, bring Wang Yin and Xiao Chao along. Arbor thought for a moment and said, the things we need to deal with this time might be a little tricky. When the time comes, if there's any danger, stay on the ship with the pharmacists. Don't come down recklessly. Huang He nodded repeatedly. As long as he could take her on the road, she would agree to anything. Jojo, the ship we came on doesn't seem to be big enough to accommodate so many people. If we don't use a boat and just use an air transportation spiritual artifact, I reckon that it's easy to get lost in the sea. There's a boat. Arbor nodded. It's big enough. The crimson firmament blue waves could hold as many people as they wanted. Arbor had personally tested the mutated space inside the ship, and it was almost endless. Therefore, there was no need to think too much about the movement of more than 30,000 soldiers. Huang Yi followed behind her. His eyes brightened as he grinned and said, That's good. Then Xin, little fatty Mata, you've all come out. Everyone smiled and nodded at her. Xin skipped forward and grabbed her hand. Little Yellow Crane, it's been a long time. How is it? How was your life in the Heavenly Pill auction? It was very fulfilling. Every day, I could develop pills with a group of like-minded pill friends. I didn't have to worry about the cost of materials. My days were simply too beautiful. Chapter 4595. Fairy Huang, he couldn't help but laugh out loud when she was pleased with herself. Qi Xianxian covered her mouth and chuckled. She patted her hand and said, Little Huang let's chat on the way. Okay. Huang He repeatedly said okay and waved her hand at Arbor with a smile. I'll go call little Super Pung and the others. Let's meet at the beach later. Okay. Qi Xianxian readily agreed and turned to look at Arbor. I see that little Huang, he seems to be in better spirits. She doesn't even have time to drink water when she gets busy. Arbor said aloofly, she's fully immersed in refining pills, so she naturally won't remember other bad things. That's true. Qi Xianxian nodded and turned to glance at Mata and the others. Let's go. We'll talk after we get out. The appearance of Qi Xianxian and the others was very sudden. Before they set off, Ollie noticed that there was something fishy about them. He tugged at Yasa's sleeve and pulled him to the side to whisper a few words to him. Ming Yasi looked in the direction his younger brother was pointing at and glanced at his younger brother indifferently. What's so strange about this? Ming Yasi said aloofly. It's not like this is the first time. This little stoic side would frequently have a few people disappear and a few more appear. He was already used to it. It was hard on Ollie to constantly stare at this cold-faced little stoic, as if staring at her would cause problems. Don't provoke her. Ming Yasi glanced at him and warned, if you don't want to follow Akir to the northern desert to train, then speak less and do more. Ollie pursed his lips and grumbled in agreement. However, his eyes were still unwilling to give up and constantly stared at Arbor's side. Why was Big Brother so indifferent? In reality, what he wanted to tell Big Brother was that after he constantly paid attention to the little stoic's movements, he discovered this little stoic definitely hid her abilities well. She had stored large groups of people in the storage talisman she drew. If their underworld province soldiers clashed with the people of the Divine Prefecture, the little stoic would absolutely pull out a bunch of people from her storage talisman and slice them into pieces in a matter of minutes. It was just that those people were really weird. Something like a storage talisman wouldn't feel good staying inside. TSK. Ollie clicked his tongue and muttered to himself,
Don't suffocate in there. Who knew how long these people would stay in the storage talisman? Who knew what it would be like to stay in the storage talisman? It must be very painful. Arbor didn't know what Alex was thinking. Even if he knew, he would only roll his eyes at him and retort with 3 words. Mind your own business. She waited by the beach for a short while before she saw Crown Prince Rome leading the soldiers from the 3 prefectures in an orderly manner. He then took out a sealing ball from his sleeve and threw it out. The soldiers in the front row saw it very clearly. When the sealing ball was thrown out, a huge 3-story ship slid out from it and sank into the water. It followed the rolling waves and slid out for some distance. Your Majesty. Crown Prince Rome quickly walked to Duan Yu's side and looked at Chishao blue waves curiously. We only prepared the ship? And Mitchum, it's more than enough to accommodate all of us. Duan Yu nodded faintly. Let your men up first. Gather everyone on the deck for now. Okay. Rong Qing nodded and turned to lead the soldiers onto the ship. Chapter 4596. After boarding the ship, everyone finally realized how big the ship was. Everyone was extremely shocked and gasped in amazement. Gathered on the broad bow deck, the soldiers of the 3 states looked forward with shining eyes. Could this be a holy weapon? Ollie muttered to himself as he looked left and right, feeling like he couldn't see the end of it. This little stoic was too extravagant. She casually took out a holy weapon. No wonder she always looked so confident. If it was anyone else, they would also be so confident if they could casually take out a holy weapon. The rooms have already been prepared for you. Rest yourselves. Someone will naturally call you out in advance when you reach the base. There's nothing else. Do you have anything else to say? Arbor looked at Duan Yu, Ming Yasi, Rong Qing, and Long Qing. The 4 of them shook their heads. Meanwhile, Long Shangyun raised her hand and yawned. I'm going back to my room to sleep first. She could be considered familiar with the Crimson Nimbus waves and could find the room she had stayed in before. With the Crimson Nimbus waves, there were no issues with its speed and defense. In any case, she only needed to sleep for a while, and they would almost reach their destination by the time she opened her eyes. How is it? Arbor glanced sideways at Duan Yu. The latter was currently looking at the Jade Messenger talisman in his hand. After skimming through 10 lines at a glance, he handed the Jade Messenger talisman to Qiao Mu. The closest stronghold should be a small coastal fishing village about a day's journey from here. Arbor nodded. With the Crimson Nimbus wave speed, it should only take half a day. We should reach our destination by daybreak tomorrow. Okay. Duan Yu nodded with a grin and said, Jojo, you've probably talked for several months today, right? You must be very tired. Quickly go rest. Arbor stroked his small face and nodded earnestly. You're right. See you tomorrow then. Duan Yu chuckled. Go then. The next morning, Yellow Crane Fairy, who was also staying in the 3rd floor cabin, knocked on Arbor's door. Arbor was washing up when he heard the urgent knocking on the door. He wiped his face and walked to the door. As soon as the door opened, Fairy Yellow Crane charged in, followed by the grinning Qi Xian. Oh my god, oh my god. Jojo, do you know what happened last night? I went to the deck to take a look today. There were schools of dead fish piled up on the side of the ship, and there were many things with broken limbs. While we were asleep last night, the ship was attacked by a school of corpse fish and underwater puppets. Do we need anything? Arbor glanced at her and asked. I'm fine. Fairy Yellow Crane was taken aback. She looked up and saw Arbor wringing the towel he used to wipe his face and hanging it aside. He said calmly, Let's eat breakfast. Qi Xian couldn't resist chuckling and patted Yellow Crane's shoulder. Those school of corpse fish simply couldn't break through the Crimson Nimbus wave's defenses. Yellow Crane woodenly followed the little stoic downstairs. Jojo, you knew this would happen? There are so many living people's auras on the ship. It's simply a sumptuous feast for the underwater corpse, fish, and corpse puppets. We'll definitely suffer an attack. Qi Xian patted her hand and said, Don't worry. The Crimson Nimbus waves are much more powerful than we imagined. Chapter 4597.
So many corpse fish suddenly gathered underwater. Could it be that someone purposely attracted them here? Huang He immediately thought of a conspiracy theory. That shouldn't be. Qi Xian and Huang He chatted casually, but their feet didn't stop as they followed Arbor to the deck. Everyone had already gathered and was happily distributing some nutrition pills. Seeing the happy expressions on their faces, Arbor felt that it was a little strange. Instead of eating these cold pills, Arbor was actually more willing to eat a bowl of home-cooked rice porridge. Wasn't this more delicious? Qi Xian pursed her lips and said, "What's there to be happy about? Isn't it just a few pills? It's better to have a bowl of red braised pork." Arbor nodded in agreement. Huang He was speechless. The soldiers of the 3 prefectures probably wouldn't understand the world of a foodie. "Oh right, Huang He, you should have advanced to a heaven-grade alchemist now, right?" Huang He smiled bashfully and shyly tugged at the corner of his clothes. "I shouldn't have reached the realm of a heaven-grade alchemist yet. After all, the pills I refine sometimes reach the heaven grade, and sometimes they hover around the earth grade. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I feel that it's still not that stable." Xiao Mu nodded. "Then it's more or less stabilized. During this period of time, you should concentrate on refining more pills. After accumulating them for a certain amount of time, it will naturally break through that barrier and bring you to a higher place." Huang He put away his playful expression and nodded solemnly. Okay, becoming a heaven-grade alchemist was one of her dreams, but she never thought that she would actually achieve it one day. All of this was thanks to Jojo, who gave her demonstrations and pointers from time to time, allowing her to make great progress on the path of alchemy. There are 2 skeleton war flags in front, Assam province guards suddenly shouted. Everyone turned to look, and indeed, they saw a battleship sailing very quickly towards them at full speed. The 2 skeleton war flags raised at the bow of the ship were quite eye-catching, as if they were announcing something. "Look at the hull of their ship. What's that thing engraved on it? It looks like a giant beast covered in flames." Yes, it's a fire beast stepping on a fireball. A fire nightmare is a fire nightmare that is equivalent to a 9th-level spirit fire. Fire Jade Beast. What a huge fire mastiff. This beast's body is probably comparable to an adult phoenix. Duan Yu was currently holding a pot of porridge as he slowly walked towards Arbor. He turned a deaf ear to those high-pitched shouts. He came to Arbor's side and said with a smile, "Come and have some porridge. Colorful divine fish congee. It's delicious and fragrant. I guarantee you'll like it." Jojo's eyes suddenly lit up. Qi Xian, who was at the side, hurriedly followed after him. She had an expression that said, "Good things need to be shared with good friends." Fuck, that ship is heading straight for us. A team leader of the Shinjo team, standing at the front of the deck, could not help but curse. With a wave of his hand, the members of his team all drew their bows and aimed at the ships that were rushing towards them. Duan Yu carefully scooped a bowl of porridge for the little girl and chuckled without even turning his head. "Quickly drink it while it's hot. You can only fight when you're full." The little stoic's eyes shone even brighter. She picked up the porridge and drank a mouthful before blinking at Duan Yu and saying, "You're absolutely right. She would only have the strength to beat people when she was full." Thump! A dull thud was heard. Chapter 4598. The entire red nimbus blue waves stood steadily in the water and was not affected at all. On the other hand, the ship with the fire jade beast painted on it tilted, and the hull shook slightly during the impact. At the front of the deck of the ship stood a young man in his early 20s. His face was sallow, his lips were pale, his eye sockets were sunken, and his eye bags were extremely deep. He was as thin as a match and looked like a tuberculosis ghost. This person hugged a plump and enchanting woman in each of his arms, teasing wantonly, his eyes full of evil thoughts. Under the impact of the ship, the young man hugged the 2 women, and his body also tilted forward a few times. A haze flashed past his eyes. "Continue to hit. Young Master Duo." The middle-aged Captain Wu Chung frowned and reminded, "This ship looks extraordinary. Young Master Duo better think carefully about whether you want to provoke it or not." After being hit by the Fire Jade ship,
The ship did not move at all. How could it be ordinary? Moreover, young Master Duo Shanming was just out to play this time. There was really no need to get involved in this kind of trouble. If I asked you to continue, then continue. Stop talking nonsense. A trace of wanton madness flashed past the young man's eyes, and he laughed loudly. Wu Cheng, you better recognize who the master is. A trace of anger flashed past the eyes of the middle-aged captain named Wu Cheng, but he seemed to have no way to deal with the young man. Wu Cheng, didn't you always brag to me that your ship is unrivaled in the river of forgetfulness? Now why don't you show me if you really have the ability? Wu Cheng was very angry. He did say that in the entire river of forgetfulness, there were very few that could be stronger than this fire jade ship. But he did not say that he had to seek death by hitting another treasure ship that looked even more extraordinary. Looking at the body of the opponent's ship, it was pure black with a faint flowing light. He did not know what kind of high-quality material was used to make it. At the moment of the first collision, the fire jade ship swayed a few times, but the opponent's ship did not move at all. Wu Cheng naturally had the idea of retreating. What's more, the two sides didn't know each other in the first place, so why should there be such animosity between them? Wasn't this causing trouble for no reason? Duo Shanming's yellow eyes looked at Wu Cheng beside him. Why, are you scared? Haha, I didn't think that there would be a day when Lord Wu Cheng would become a coward. Young Master Duo. Wu Cheng glared angrily at Duo Shanming. Go ahead. I'd like to see if there's anyone who dares to go against my Duo clan in the river of forgetfulness. Duo Shanming's tone was so arrogant that Wu Cheng couldn't help but frown. This Duo Shanming was an idiot from the Duo family. He liked to flirt with women and never did anything serious. Not long ago, because he had taken a fancy to his daughter, he had incited the Duo clan to propose marriage several times. Wu Cheng did not agree, and thus completely offended this person. However, due to Wu Cheng's illustrious reputation at sea, the Duo family didn't dare to fall out with Wu Cheng for Duo Shanming. Why is it him? The Long siblings, who had rushed to the deck of the Scarlet Firmament Blue Wave ship, were finally able to clearly see the people standing on the fireworm ship. The two of them couldn't help but frown. Who is it? When the little Stoic saw their strange expressions, she turned to look at them and asked. It's Duo Shanming from the Duo clan of forgetfulness. Long Shangyun looked at the person on the ship with a complicated expression. Eldest brother, why is Duo Shanming here? Chapter 4599. Long Huan's expression was also very unsightly. When he turned to look at Arbor's expressionless face, his emotions fluctuated, and he hesitated on how to open his mouth. Just say it. The little Stoic glanced at him. Is he a brainless disciple of some noble family in Wangchuan? Long Huan's big head nodded with difficulty. From the looks of it, weren't Duo Shanming's actions the perfect example of a brainless noble child? Who in their right mind would order someone to steer a boat and crash into someone else without any reason? Even if he didn't think for others, shouldn't he think for his own life? What if he couldn't crash, or both sides suffered, and both ships sank together? At that time, we want to fly back or something. I see that this person's complexion is waxy yellow, which is a sign of damage to his liver and gallbladder meridians. His lips are pale, his limbs are weak, his eyes are lifeless, and his eye bags are extremely deep. His eyes are filled with a lustful light. I reckon he's a natural, overindulgent person. How is he different from an animal if he's born without being able to control his emotions and body? Soaking in a pile of women every day, his body is incomplete, and his liver, meridians, and lungs are on the verge of necrosis. He must be tossing and turning every night in the wee hours of the morning, and his heart and lungs will beat rapidly. He will undoubtedly die within 2 months. Cause of death, wind. Everyone. They silently looked at each other and were powerless to ridicule again. They could only respond to the little Stoic's icy and emotionless medical analysis with various expressions. Duan Yu twitched his mouth and nodded repeatedly. Is there a way to save him? There isn't. The little Stoic replied coldly. Then that's good. If we kill him now, We'll be sending him to meet the king of hell 2 months in advance. Duan nodded with a grin. Jojo, how about I go kill this punk? Arbor shook his head. Dirty. Duan asked with a grin. Then what should we do? Don't tell me we have to let him go. The little stoic expressionlessly took out the heart of misfortune from her sleeve. This ship can be considered sturdy. The little stoic said coldly. Even if we don't use it in the future, we should be able to disassemble it into many rare weapon refining materials. Jojo, you're so smart. Duan held back his laughter and nodded repeatedly. Are we going to call them in together with the ship? The little stoic nodded. This is very appropriate. Little Tai, Sway, silently rolled its eyes. There are 2 transcendent state experts on that ship. It won't be easy to take them into the heart of misfortune. Arbor blinked, turned around, and called out, Chun-Chi. I'm coming. Second sect leader, do you have any orders? Is there a way to deal with the transcendent realm experts on the opposite ship? Second sect leader, you just need to do what you need to do. If those ignorant fools insist on jumping out to court death, then we will smack them all to death on behalf of the second sect master. Xiao Mu nodded and tossed the heart of misfortune out with a wave of her hand. Long Shangyun and Long Huan looked embarrassed. They stared at Arbor's back and murmured, Cousin wants to. The pitch-black heart of misfortune swirled in the air. It suddenly jumped above crimson firmament blue waves. Duo Shanming, who was arguing with Wu Cheng, suddenly felt the ship violently shake a few times. He almost accidentally threw out the 2 seductive women in his arms. Young Master Duo. The 2 beauties couldn't help but exclaim and hastily hugged Duo Shanming's waist. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.